Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Out of the flat, there's Max Hammond with the grab. Hammond on the far side. Hammond got room. Look out. Hammond could go. Puts it back inside the 10. Down the 5. Touchdown. Max Hammond. Downfield. Got it. It's going to go. Touchdown. Kristen. 48-yard touchdown strike in the Wildcat. He'll throw it into the end zone. Touchdown. Bodorsky, touchdown completion to Shada, and Shada is on the board.
My old lady friend, thank you.
Sipping some lemonade. Look out! Wide open! Touchdown and a strike from Scott. 43-yarder to Kaliga.
Yeah, you want to go back to what I talked about here? If I had to give a thumbnail sketch of this game, it will be the consistency of Bennington's offense against the big play strike ability of Scott.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Hi.
It's 7:01 a.m. I think Joe Kaliga just did something crazy again.
Yeah, that was is this me?
Yep, that's
me.
you.
Sometimes I forget how this thing works.
Well, the knobs go one way, it turns the volume up. It goes the other way, it turns the volume down.
Working with another comedian. Another comedian.
I'm just trying to help you out, man.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's what he was saying.
I'm always helpful. That's what people say about me.
Oh, man, your boy is on fumes.
Yeah, you've had a long couple days.
Yeah. Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
But, yeah. We're good.
It was a good day of games yesterday, though.
Yeah, it was.
You got a good slate.
It was pretty good. Saw a lot of really, really good individual performances.
Yeah.
And just some classy coaches. Like it's part of my favorite thing is just being around other people, kind of seeing how they handle situations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, coaching is one of those professions where sometimes you're not in as much control as you want to be, but it's a controlling kind of position, right?
Yeah.
From the outside looking in. So that balance is always fun to watch.
Yeah, you kind of need guys that want to be control freaks, but then don't freak out when they lose control or when they don't have control over certain things.
Yeah.
Which is a very specific type of individual you're looking for.
A lot of classy coaches too around the state. Just checking in on Coach Lamanji.
Yeah.
And at least acknowledging just the brotherhood, kind of the brethren of coaching. So it's cool, man. And what a way to close it out.
Oh, yeah.
Last night, two of the better programs. I almost hate to say two of the better players because there were so many good players.
A lot of guys making plays last night.
But just a heck of a game.
Yeah, and that last, especially the fourth quarter, but the second half in general was, incredibly exciting, but pretty chaotic too.
It was controlled chaos, and we've talked to Coach Lennart a bunch.
Yeah,
and he's earned, like, when he says something, you kind of just like, oh yeah, that's what's going to happen. So his halftime interview kind of let me know, yeah, he's going to be fine. And then they were.
Yeah.
And then Scott answered when it would have been easy not to, because the whole.
Especially because part of it was Scott was a little bit self-destructing.
Oh yeah,
like it wasn't just Bennington.
So
although
in the second half,
yes,
like the first half, I think Bennington's inability to finish in the red zone.
Oh yeah,
because I think they finished 2 of 5 in the red zone.
Right,
because they moved Bennington lost a game in which they had 500. They were over 530 yards.
Yeah. They moved the ball at will, basically.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is Scott's resolve.
Yeah.
For a team that was, if you'd have told me that game was going to boil down to like cultural toughness, I would have probably said, oh, well, Bennington's used to winning more lately.
Yeah.
That's going to matter.
The guys on the team still have.
Just you get enough Van Dykes, and enough Gunthers, enough Christophersons. It's like
Van Dyke was making some crazy throw. Like some of them didn't get caught, but the one down by the goal line where he's rolling left, I believe, then throws back across and hits the guy right about here, and it's in like triple coverage.
Oh, I know.
So I understand how it didn't get caught, but live I thought it got deflected or whatever.
Was that the one he threw to Lens 13?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it gets all the way in. I was like, oh, that ball made it.
Larry hit the talkback button. He was like, oh, my gosh. I'm like, this just.
It was wild.
You know, we do NEB preps every week, and there's just guys like that you have. And I've just grown to have an affinity for Van Dyke just because I know him.
Yeah.
And
we've been talking about how good he is all year.
Just kind of what he's been through.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the way that he could give 2 cares.
Yeah.
Like, they just go out and play. And Luke, that I don't know near as well, but he may be he may be even that and then some.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you can tell they're both just hyper competitive.
Yeah.
And that's a team. And, I mean, you won't see – I know you were talking about it on the broadcast last night, but you won't see better ball skills than you saw last night from a lot of those guys.
Yeah, and it started in the afternoon game. I was floored.
Yeah.
About how some of the athleticism and the plays the guys were making on balls in the air.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
The play that
Podorsky from like just were so many good plays.
The play that Kaliga made where I think so he gets pass interfered with. And then he comes down with it, fights through the pass interference, comes down with it.
And he almost came out of the back end.
Yes, and he puts a move on the guy.
That was a heck of a play by Aiden Smith. He was hustling his
dude. I thought
out.
He was gone.
You should have seen how far Aiden Smith came from to save that.
Well, so they showed it on the replay. You could see him coming from the back angle, how far he came to catch him, to run him down. Because as soon as Kaliga made the move to get past the second defender, so not the guy guarding him, but the second defender over the top, I was like, oh no, he's gone.
Yeah, and he's fast.
And yeah, because you could see him accelerate, and then Smith came in and swiped the ankle. I was like, oh man, because that was a quarter of an inch from a house call.
There were so many guys on that field last night that are up for the NEB prep, the player of the year.
Yeah.
Whether it's, defensive player of the year, MVP, offensive player. I mean, there's
special teams, the whole deal.
Yeah. You think Jansen can play?
Yeah. Yeah. There were so many dudes on that field that could play. And I'll admit, I mostly watch Class A during the year.
Yeah.
So this weekend's always kind of a treat for me because I know there's good players at other levels. It's just with my schedule where we're at, it's easiest to get out to Class A games, right? And so I knew I hadn't seen Scott yet this year, and so I knew they had good players, but like sometimes it looks even better than kind of the accolades and the numbers and everything. You even see this a little bit in Class A. Like Amarion Jackson is a better player than his numbers reflect, I think.
1,000%.
Like that's a guy where I go, man, that's a great player.
He's really good. The funny thing is, when we didn't talk much about that game on Monday night, he was really good defensively.
Yeah.
Quietly, he saved a couple plays.
Which he didn't play last year, did he?
Early, no.
Right? Like this is new for him.
He saved a couple plays early that I felt like
you guys could have got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every other week.
Mm-hmm.
We probably make that play, but
when you don't have a guy of that ability on the other side.
He cleaned it up on the back, and his ability to tackle, which was kind of sneaky, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't assume,
no, but you see it on film though,
100%.
So it's like okay.
And I've seen Miller South a couple times this year, so I've seen that from him. But you wouldn't guess that's a converted wide receiver.
Yeah,
because wide receivers kind of have little
really good.
They have a little reputation of maybe not being the toughest guys on a football field.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's really good. Whoever ends up getting him is going to get a good one. That's a good ball player.
So, and just a lot of I like Truman Rule from Central City quite a bit. I talked about Podorsky. There's Van Slyke. Really good player.
Really good players out there. I mean, we've talked a lot about Kip Brigham from Wahoo. Unbelievable player.
His patience.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I'm sure you can appreciate it, but I just like the fact that
you probably don't appreciate
most runners think.
Yeah.
I need to
hit the hole.
I just need to hurry up and get there.
Yeah.
But his patience, and he's not a big guy.
Yeah.
His shoulders are always square too, so it's hectic.
There's an ability across sports, really, whether it's basketball, football. You see it, hockey. I'm sure you see less of it in baseball just because of the pace of the game. But there's this ability of guys like Kip where they seem to have this innate timing mechanism in their head where they know exactly how long things take.
Mm-hmm.
And it is
I know what you're saying. That's a guy that's repped a lot of run game.
Yeah.
I call it feel.
Yeah. It's like feel, vision, patience. Like people call it different things.
You watched Michigan's backs last year?
Yeah, unbelievable feel.
It was, I was quorum to the T.
Yeah.
You watch Saquon Barkley. He's a freak.
Yeah. But what makes him special
is his feel for what they want to do up front.
Yeah.
He's just kind of moving along, and all of a sudden it's, and that's a lot of Brigham.
A guy that this is a weird.
I mean,
pull.
winter sports guys or coaches are like waiting for their kids.
Yeah, they're like,
come.
"Hey, let's go."
Well, it's incredible.
We got to play some
I
ball.
kind of was doing the laundry list in my head.
Yeah,
wrestlers and basketball. I'm like, these coaches are waiting a while,
which I love. I love the guys that do both.
Yeah,
because I don't need to get off on a youth sports specialization thing today, but a guy that I think is a good example of this who wasn't super physically gifted of the vision thing is I always kind of put like Warwick Dunn in that category.
Yeah,
like little guy.
Love him.
It's
weird. I love his running style.
Like typically, you'd see him as like a scat back, third down back, Darren Sproles type guy in the NFL, but he was an every down back for over a decade because his feel was unbelievable. Like, yeah, he was fast, but who cares? Everybody's fast in the NFL. Those are the guys that I really like. I think are the most fun to watch, whether it's football or basketball or whatever else, because like you can just tell they're better at the game than everybody else is, and it's. You
saw that. I mean, Goots was overshadowed. He went for $130.
Yeah, just casually. I wouldn't have known that I wouldn't have known that number.
And it was gaudy. It was like 19 for 131.
Yeah, you got that's a huge yards per carry, like just chunking people.
And how good is Lordson? Where they didn't really start playing running back until quarterfinals.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, must be nice just to be able to go to
just
that.
Toss a guy in there and hey, good to go.
I've obviously grown just to be a fan because of wrestling.
Yeah,
right. He's wrestling in a program with some guys that I know really well, and he and his brother. But just some of the individual stuff that was going on last night is.
One of my basketball coaching friends just texted me. He goes, "Yes, we are waiting on the football players."
Well, I know the wrestling coach has got to be scratching their head too.
He's like, any day now, guys, let's go. Yeah. Like, congrats on the good season, but we got practice.
It was, but a heck of a game last night. I felt, this is where my heart, like for players, I felt like Houston Hill deserved better for the outcome because I do. I think I like what he does for that offense, and man, Scott just made some plays.
Yeah,
man.
They really did.
Sometimes I'd have liked to seen a little healthier new birth for Bennington.
Yeah.
For whatever the reason, I'm just a fan. I like the way he plays, and he's a really, really good safety blanket. And conversely, you saw what Luke did for Dylan.
Yep.
The other way with that intermediate passing game.
100%.
Right, it just kind of settled him down.
Yeah,
and then they just played catch, kind of matriculating down the field. But
when you've got those sort of easy check, like not sort of check down, but just like this, hey, like security blanket. I know this guy's going to be there.
I did figure out last night. Somebody tweeted that Luke is older. Luke doesn't seem like he'd like me near as much as. It kind of gives me the
little mean spirited.
I'm like, I don't think that guy would like me. I don't know, but he just flipped over all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Now you'd seen it on film, but it's like, okay, well, is this going to happen tonight? And then all of a sudden that drive, it was just like, I'm going to play catch with my brother.
Yeah.
I joke with LP that they want to have a good Thanksgiving. And I do think Luke's probably the tougher one.
Yeah. I mean,
listen.
Although Dylan was big, that dive into the end zone on the 2-point conversion.
He got I wonder how sore he
got hammered,
getting rocked.
Yeah, not just on that play, but like on his
How about
throws.
the first one out of bounds that they didn't call?
Yeah,
he got smoked.
Yeah,
and it was like, okay, this may be how it was going to go. And then Bennington would dial up pressure. And the one that I think hurt him the most was probably the most innocuous when he got drugged down from behind.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He kind of rolled on his shoulder.
Yeah,
and he was a little slow.
Yeah,
I'm like, there were some other ones that looked a little more violent. That one he just fell,
you just land wrong, right?
Yeah, but
he did do his best John Elway helicopter impression into the end zone on that one.
So some folks were really upset about some of those calls. I just couldn't.
I couldn't tell, honestly. I couldn't tell.
And from
if I had to guess, it probably was short, but there wasn't a good enough angle.
And Larry did a good job. He's like, because I was like, oh, I think he's short. And he's like, well, that's kind of a bad angle.
Yeah, you could. I could tell on TV that wasn't a great angle to be able to tell that.
I wanted a pylon, and I'm pretty sure, you just have to break the plane, and that's why I asked real time who recovered. Right?
Yeah, there was a clear recovery by Scott.
So I'm like,
I'm not sure that it mattered.
It was going to matter, but I did hear. This wasn't confirmed to me, but coaches on the sideline, because I know that horse collar is going to be a huge issue. I don't know if I have so many official friends. I don't know why somebody just doesn't tell me, but apparently on a horse collar call, the runner has to fall on his back.
Oh, that's not that way in the other levels.
I need clarity.
I know that if you bring down in NFL and college, if you bring a guy down by the horse collar, that is the rule, right? So it doesn't matter if he lands on. So
maybe if Lortzen falls different,
maybe.
I was scrambling.
There was one in your guys' game against Braylon that I thought might get called.
Yeah,
late when I think it was 20-10, and Millard South was starting to get pressure pretty much every down on Braylon.
With 10 minutes to go in that game, they had -6 rushing yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we said, it's exactly the thing you talked about. You can do the right thing the entire game, and there's so many playmakers over there that it just might not matter.
Yeah. You're just hoping it wouldn't come to fruition.
Right? Yeah. Being right as DB is not always the best thing in the world, right? You'd like to miss one every once in a while.
Yeah. We had to roll the dice in some spots too, right? We weren't going to double loft and
which ended up working out.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
Although he had the big catch.
He did
against us on third down. It was right in front of me too. He caught the back end of that ball.
Really?
And he hit the ground and he kind of grimaced. Like I could see this real time.
Yeah.
It was like HD.
Because he's like from me to you away.
And I was like, oh, it'd be cool if you didn't hang on to that. That's really what I'm thinking. Because I didn't want him to be hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like,
it's like I'd love it if the grimace was just because you dropped it.
I was like, cool, let that go while you're just holding the pose for the official to see you squeezed it. That was cool. But it is. I like watching kids function at a high level.
Yeah, and we had a lot,
even if it's at
your own expense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of that over the last couple of days.
Yeah, and the world was introduced to Mr. Hill.
Yeah.
Tough.
That's a tough pill to swallow when you got a guy that's probably third or fourth on the weapons list, and you're like, we're just gonna go ahead and.
At one point, looking for a different home too. So that's got to sit on that one. He's fantastic. No, that's very sudden.
Yeah, he had a great game, and honestly, that's kind of where the dam broke, right?
Yeah. How good would you like to be? Like, let's say if you're Lordson.
Yeah.
Where you could be a 4-time state wrestling champ, and it may be an afterthought.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Everybody will remember his performance from last night.
Yeah, 100%. This is unbelievable.
There are sometimes I just had to
shake your head.
Just use my cough button. I was
just silly.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And when you see it develop, his touchdown run that he cut back looked like it was just
nice. Really casual. Yeah, just a stroll in the park.
Just his vision.
Yeah.
That thing got walled down. He was really, really patient. And then when he saw the crease, there was just like this subtle acceleration.
Yeah.
And he's playing against some good guys. because I like Scott's secondary. I'm a big Lieben trick guy.
Yeah.
He may be one of those pups that doesn't quite know how good he could be. Or maybe he does. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Pretty cerebral family. But I watched him warm up, and I kind of watched some of the little things. He could be
really good.
Remember that, Kalik, a lot of these guys get a lot. Liebentritt's one of those younger guys that I think keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the only other guys I've seen kind of do that this year, where he just kind of makes like a casual move and has like, I saw Vermoss do it against Millard West earlier this year, where I think
another one of those sudden guys.
Yeah, super sudden. But so when he makes just like a little move, it almost looked like he was like downshifting in terms of he was slowing down like into his descent, and it was so dramatic the way it had an impact on the defense and real time.
It's kind of like Barkley's second 70-some yarder,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's like
where you're like, I don't totally understand what I just watched.
I think he's moving fast.
Yes. Because you think he's moving fast because of how quickly he's running away from people,
yeah.
But if you're just watching him, you're like, is he jogging?
Yeah.
What's happening here?
This is just a lot of guys that's one of the reasons that I like, and it's weird to say I like because I'm gonna have to play against. It's one of the reasons why I like KJ over at Iowa.
Oh yeah,
just very just efficient.
And
guys making moves going forward. You know what I mean? Those guys are hard.
You can like a guy even if you're going to play him.
Can you?
I think so. You can have a level of respect for somebody.
No, I do.
It's just you still go try and beat their head in when it's game time, but up until that,
they will have their work cut out.
Yeah, they're going to have.
Is it still?
Let's see. We're still at 5.5. Last time I saw, we were at 5.5.
We got to talk concern and danger meter for you because you're kind of a pessimist by nature with this particular
still
team.
5.5.
Is it? How are we feeling about Creighton?
Oh, not great.
Yeah, I can't wait for this next segment.
Not great at all. I've got some concerns, and we'll get to it in the next segment here. Obviously, they lost yesterday to San Diego State, but
so our statistician, our spin spotter, Creighton guy. So we literally were watching, not asking. I'm dead dog serious. I actually had volume, and we got ready to shoot the open for the next game, and in typical LP fashion, Larry goes, "Hey, it'd be a really good idea." I go, "What's that, LP?" He goes, "If you turn the basketball game down on your computer." I was like, all right.
Just nice and casual.
My bad.
Hey,
it's just,
if you could turn that down for me, appreciate it.
Dude, it's hilarious.
Coming up on the show today, we've got our Wednesday regular, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7.
I didn't see BC yesterday. I thought I might.
We bumped B. Edwards up a day since we won't be here tomorrow on Thanksgiving. Get some of his winners for the weekend at 8:45. Then 9:45, we'll talk to our friend Jessica Coody, Husker Sports Network. See what Jessica's got going on heading into the weekend. Hopefully she'll be able to get you to Iowa City safe and sound.
Yeah, I don't know. We're leaving a little later, so I should be okay.
You've got a lot of familiarity driving over there, so you should be all right.
Relax.
You should be able to figure it out, okay?
Wow.
Maybe not quite as much as Madison, but quite a bit.
I thought I shook this yesterday.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll talk about how bad Creighton is coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. DB.
What do you want now?
I just thought we might talk, have a little conversation.
Can we talk? My voice is shot.
Yeah, you've been a lot going on the last couple of days. A lot talking.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sure. So you know how you never know, like when your body's gonna crash. Like I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday. Sunday we I don't think we left the school until 5.
Yeah.
And then you recalibrate like your emotions, and you gotta ramp it up. I told Brett yesterday in Central City, I was like, how are you gonna pull this off? And go love on other people's kids. Like that's gonna be my best medicine.
Yeah.
Is to go do a broadcast. So when people are getting off the elevator and like, oh my gosh, and I get it. I love the concern and compassion, and a lot of people asking about Coach Samanji, and just for that time being, like for those 3 games, that's a pretty good little getaway.
Little medicine for you.
Yeah, because you just understand the magnitude. It's a heck of a place to be, and Coach Turman said it best. There's some rumblings that you may not continue to hold state championships there and stuff, but the kids love it.
Yeah, that would be.
He's getting better with age. He's loosened up. Yeah. He's loosened up. Because he's always been funny.
Yeah, but he seems a little bit.
He's
less high strung.
Yeah, he is. He's
a little less tightly wound, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know him well, but I kind of have these little mini interactions with him.
Yeah.
Sort of maybe a couple times a year.
I love him.
Whether it's at Pisons, whether it's talking about on the radio or whatever, and you can kind of just tell over the last few years he seems to be a little looser.
And he's one of those guys. He's like I'm just going to relate to these guys as cheese, the cheese on the bad sandwich.
Yeah.
He's not always like what you would think, like if you watch us interact, like overly kind.
Yeah.
But he means well.
And
I like him.
He gives off the vibe of a good dude, though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like guys like that.
Because there's guys that the stinky cheese guys are the guys that don't give off a good vibe. That's why I call them stinky cheese. Because like your first whiff, you're like, yeah. And then you see the cheese, you're like, oh, maybe it's okay.
Like one of my guys, like he made my night. There's so many texts I had to catch up on Monday night, but like you just never know. Like Matt Husk sent me a text, and it changed and I had a ton. There were a lot, but like they're just some that hit you differently.
Yeah.
Because you don't always hear from them, and when you read the message, sometimes it's not how you think they talk.
Yeah.
And he sent me a message, and I was like, I think I'm gonna go to bed now.
Just kind of gave you a little peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you just sit here and can program emotions, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna do this, but it just hit different.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, great, thank you.
So if you're, I know you're a public school guy, but if you're a Creighton fan trying to program, I know you like Coach Mack.
I love.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
So one of the things that I told you I was curious about is gonna play out.
What's that?
I want to see him navigate the uncertainty of chemistry.
Yeah.
Because he's a culture guy.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of moving pieces.
And you have a lot of moving pieces that are very similar. And I said, in the preseason, I want to watch him go to work because, I mean, Lord knows he's talked me off the ledge before. Like, I just want to know. I want to watch him work, and they're going to have to work.
If he pulls this off, where this becomes the type of team that a top 15 team. That's what they were preseason ranked. Yeah. If he pulls that off this year, this might be his best coaching job ever. Because
how soon before you think the blueprint of the Big East Conference? Because
I don't know.
It's very head scratchy.
I don't know yet. I really don't.
Okay.
Because you've got, UConn's dropped 2 in a row,
and hasn't looked good doing it.
No,
last night took a last minute, but
yeah, but how good's Colorado?
I don't know.
I don't either, right? But
I know they're well coached.
At this point, I look at that and I'm go, it's probably not a team I'm super scared of in general, right? Colorado doesn't strike me as a team that I'm too worried about in the national landscape. Obviously, UConn drops the game to Memphis, then they come back and drop the game, which I get how things can get away from you in Maui because you're playing boom, boom, boom like that, and it's a weird atmosphere with the gym and everything, so I get it. But if I'm UConn, I don't look like I'm unbeatable. Obviously, you've got the St. John's and Seton Halls of the world that you just kind of scratch your head at sometimes. Even Rutgers with a couple of Rutgers isn't even. I don't know why I even brought up Rutgers. Seton Hall,
because Bailey's a top 3 pick. That's why. Well, and he's got his part like that class. I wonder how Pico pulled that off. I knew that was the scuttlebutt this summer.
Yeah,
but to watch it actually play out.
Harper and Bailey.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You look at those guys, you're like, those are lottery picks.
2 of the top 10 players in high school.
And you go, okay, why are you at Rutgers? But that's kind of like the Big Ten's the same way as the Big East in that sense. Where I don't know who I think is good yet, and maybe nobody's that good.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll matter for Creighton, right? That'll matter in how Creighton ends up. But I don't think this roster currently makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
it's a sort of, whether it's chemistry and even basketball wise, doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And maybe it will at some point. Like maybe guys find roles. If Fedor gets eligible, that would be a big deal as well, in terms of guys sliding into spots that make more sense. But I was at the Nebraska game with a buddy of mine and his dad goes, it doesn't seem like Mac has figured out this team yet. In terms
it's early.
of, like, he's still feeling for it, right?
And he told us that in his last presser, too.
And it wasn't as like,
yesterday.
It wasn't a negative or pejorative. It was just like, hey, it looks like he's still trying to find it with what makes sense for this team.
I meant to Google pejorative last time you used that. Just want to give
just
me the answer
means
to the
like with a negative connotation.
Okay.
Yeah. Or like an almost, I wouldn't quite say insult, but kind of almost like a backhanded.
Okay.
Yeah. When you say so, but yeah, so like I don't even think he meant it as an indictment on Mac that he hadn't figured it out yet. It was just this team might take a little longer to gel than, I mean, maybe it's a little bit like the team a couple years ago, best case scenario where they, are 6-6 through non-con play in the first couple games of the Big East. And then obviously they sort of found their stride and figured out who they were. But that was sort of similar with a lot of new pieces, a lot of guys in different spots. Now, I don't know that there's a Baylor Shireman on this roster in terms of ability or makeup or anything like that. But if there is, you do have a couple young guys in Jackson McAndrew and Ty Davis that there's stuff I really like about them.
How long will it take you? Because I think we kind of differed, at least in our group text. And I think I should. All right, I'll listen to your response. How patient do you want me to be, or should we be, before we have these generalizations on Neil? I think I was a little tougher than you guys in the chat because I felt like I had my mind made up, but I'm willing to see it out.
So here's where I'm at with Neil. My expectations of him from what I watched at Arizona State were so low that honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did not like his Arizona State fan at all.
Hard, though. I was riding with Padilla on that one, though. Where did I say Dilla?
Yeah.
Dilla.
No, it's Dilla.
I know. I saw him yesterday.
What's the Dilla?
So I'm just real quick.
Yeah.
Sauter kind of shot me the side eye. I think I was a little nicer to Jacob greeting him than I was Sauter. But it wasn't personal.
Yeah.
I see Sauter all the time.
Yeah, you don't always see Jacob.
So when I saw and Jacob was nice. He was like, came over, he's like, hey. He's like, hey, DB. I was like, oh, hey, JP. And Sauter looked at me like, man,
JP's very likable. I love JP.
Sauter was probably expecting a happy birthday.
I know. And Sauter threw me off because he said something really, really, really nice in the morning. And I was like,
you just don't trust it for the rest of the day?
Well, it had depth.
Yeah.
And I was like shook. I was like, okay, I'm going to go now. Like, I didn't even know how to respond. But anyway, so with Neil, somebody's, and who knows, were you surprised that Ashworth went through warmups?
Yeah. I mean, they're saying
so. Some of those guys have those ankles.
Yeah, where they bounce back.
And I always was envious.
Oh, I'm super jealous.
Booker was like that.
Really?
Michael Booker, yes. Terrible knees.
They're like rubber.
Those malleable ankles.
Bounce right back.
It's like, how does that thing looks like a hard-boiled egg under there? How are you playing?
I mean, I was hearing Ashworth might play on Saturday, like this upcoming Saturday.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be out for a month.
I'm shocked. We got to get into that.
We've got plenty more time to come up with all of that here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. It is time to get to a friend on the Hurrdat hotline. We got Jaden. Oh, maybe he's a friend. We don't know yet.
Friend or foe?
Jaden, what's going on, bud?
I like the name.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Jaden, what's up?
How we doing?
Hey, pretty good, guys. First off, just want to say congrats to DB on a great season.
Thanks, buddy.
And it's pretty cool. Pretty cool that you, turn around the next day and go back and announce games. And, yeah,
I appreciate that because.
Well, it got a little loose there in the booth yesterday, I will say.
Well, I know, and here's the deal, man. I hope people are okay with that because it takes two to tango, but I own me. But Larry and I get along so well, and he's funny, right? So sometimes, like, he knows how to put the quarter in. Like, I get a LP. I mean, I've worked with.
Great.
I worked with him for 20 years. You know, it's like he's super.
Yeah,
and he is a breath of fresh air. Like I'm a big Putney guy.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. It was awesome to listen to that. Some good games yesterday too. But I did have one quick question on Iowa.
Okay.
We might have lost him.
No. He just is in a bad spot. There it is. Hey, start that question again, Jaden. You cut out for a second.
Hey. My question is mainly on the secondary. I know you've talked about, maybe them not wanting to mix the the younger guys with the older guys or things of that nature. But I mean, is it just that the younger guys aren't ready yet, or are they just seeing something in practice that makes them not want to play them yet? I was just wondering, because I don't know, just when you see the same mistakes week after week, you kind of just want to see, another guy get a chance. So
yeah,
just wanted to hear your thoughts on that, and congrats on a good season. And Ravi, maybe next time I'll have something nice to say about you.
I won't hold my breath, but I appreciate it. Thanks for thanks for calling, Jaden.
The whole the secondary thing, it's just one of those questions I don't have a great answer for.
Sure,
because I don't know enough. I'm not. Well, I know, but I'm probably too close to it, right?
Sure.
So I would say with that, number one, as it relates to Iowa, I think Nebraska will play it vastly different with their secondary. I'm going to say this again. With regards to Iowa, I think Nebraska will play the back end vastly different than we've seen the first. How many games have they played? 11. First 11 games.
Schematically or personnel?
Personnel.
Okay.
Personnel. So, I'm not necessarily. I think it'll look different.
Sure.
Just look who's on the field.
And we started to see that at the end of Wisconsin.
Kind of count the bodies that are on the field, and draw your own conclusions.
We saw some Bly Hill against Wisconsin, and I don't know what I don't know what the personnel is going to look like, but they did start to do that against Wisconsin.
So, and this is a team where schematically Nebraska is going to have to play it different.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't play with a 3 down front and say, "Hey, go stop the run."
Yeah.
So this is a good spot.
Maybe
where,
a little more like Rutgers.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I think if you're Nebraska, as it relates to Jaden's question, this is where you make a little bit of money schematically, right? Because this is about game plan and installation. You can't play it the same way that you have and expect you to do things differently. So your install, which is a couple of days short, has to be on point. With regards to playing young and new, it's not that they don't trust. No, it's not that they don't trust. It's just that you have to be willing to, if you're still winning and you're achieving goals, how quickly do you pull the plug on the transition?
Yeah.
It's a weird analogy, but it's like stitching up the same sweatshirt or shirt to get by before you go buy a new one.
Sure. People do it with cars all the time, right? Like how much do I keep putting money into this car before I just say, hey, let's go buy a new one instead of fixing the engine or transmission?
That's kind of the best analogy I can give. It's not so much like the cross-contamination thing, because that has negative connotation. It's like, ooh, you just clean that chicken. Don't put the, andouille that close or whatever, right?
Although I do think there's a difference between not wanting cross-contamination and wanting to preserve the chemistry of a group.
Yeah.
Like the younger group, if they're building really good chemistry together, they might look better as a unit than they do individually spliced in.
And I do like the movement of the locker room.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said what I said about the wanting the locker room back, but I do like that movement.
Yeah.
But as you can see from some of the things that Coach Holgerson says, and he's freed other coaches up to be like that too.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Which is important.
Like sometimes I think you want to look at Coach Holgerson and say, yeah, what he said.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't care who plays.
Ditto.
Right? I mean, that was like the line of the press conference week, right?
100%.
I don't care who you are.
And I think there's a
shots fired.
I think it's hard sometimes with younger coaches who don't have sort of the equity, because let's be honest, Dana Holgerson doesn't need this job.
No.
Right? A lot of these other guys.
Now be careful now, because I don't want to give the impression, this may be my pride, so you can check me.
Sure.
Let's not act like he's doing us a favor.
No.
Because
I mean in where he's at in his career.
Okay.
Right? It's not like he's playing charity to Nebraska. He wants to be here, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think he sees a value in being here. But in terms of what his career is, he's still got a few $1 million to cash from Houston before he really even has to think about anything.
Yeah,
it's
else.
not a money
it's
thing.
It's a being satisfied.
He likes coaching ball.
Yeah.
Right? But it's also not a career.
I love when people say that. You sound so old. I just want to coach ball.
Good ball player.
I'm a ball coach.
Good ball player. I don't know. I just started doing that in the last few months. I don't know why. But it's also not a career advancement thing in the sense that, like, some of these guys on staff, when you're a young coach, you're getting your career going, right? That's not where Dana Holgerson's at. Like, he'll probably have offers in the offseason, and he probably would have had offers in the offseason regardless of if he came back to Nebraska or not. Now, if over the course of 3 or 4 games that he's here, he lights the world on fire, like, yeah, maybe the offers are a little better. But this isn't, like Garrett McGuire's trying to advance his coaching career at some point, right? Even like a Dvorak, right, is trying to advance his coaching career to a certain point. Whereas Dana Holgerson's like, yeah, I've been a head coach for 13 years. I kind of don't have to worry about that right now. At the very least, everybody's going to hire me as an offensive coordinator for as long as I want to work. Whether I decide to be a head coach or not, or want to be a head coach or not, that's a different story. But Dana Holgerson's never going to have a hard time finding work. And that's the difference between, I think, where he's at and able to say certain things versus where a lot of the rest of the Nebraska staff's at, because they just don't have that comfortability career-wise.
I never say that word right.
Comfortability.
Is it comfortability or comfortability?
I don't even know if it's a real word, if I'm being honest.
You always say that, and it turns out to be a word, so I'm not going to slap your wrist publicly.
But I think it's a very different situation because of where they're at in their careers.
I think you're playing possum too, by the way, when you do that. I don't even know if that's a word.
Well, you kind of have me second guessing sometimes because I'll say things that I think are words, and then
what'd you say a couple weeks ago? And my man B2 was like, did you say worser?
Yeah, I did. I said worser. Technically a word. Technically, I don't feel good about that one. I'm gonna be honest.
I remember.
I'd like to get that one back.
Severe used to want to wring my neck when I would say, irregardless.
Oh yeah, that's not a word.
It is too.
No, no, it's not.
God, I'll stab you.
Irregardless and regardless mean the same thing. Why would both words exist?
It's something about written versus oral.
Yeah, I mean, oral language is different.
But anyway, so back to kind of what you're saying about like the old guys and the young guys as it relates to Jaden's question is because there's this thing where you want these bowl practice. Nebraska's telling you everything you want to know if you just listen to them, right? Because they're talking about, hey, these extra practices and these schools get this, and we've been missing out on that. So you know that's being talked about behind closed doors. Hey, we're a developmental program. We've been short on practices. We want to get this. Let's just get to a bowl game, get that monkey off our back, and move on. So I think without sacrificing the season, the premise was let's just get to a bowl game. So as long as Nebraska's in the hunt, they're not going to typically hit panic,
right?
Because they still have some goals in hand. So after Indiana, I was like, well, they got some tough decisions to make. It's how close are we without having to make wholesale changes so we can still achieve the desired outcome. The desired outcome was to get the extra bowl practices and
make a bowl game.
So they were just good enough to be doing that. So you didn't want to make wholesale changes. Now,
and
offense is different than defense because offense was so bad a year ago. Anything you did would be better than what it was because you have better personnel now, right? So there's that temperament.
Yeah.
Defensively, on the other hand, you were so good in some areas. You're like, well, how much do we want to change this? Like, let's not forget.
Yeah.
Especially if you put it against statistics too. Like, we're not near as bad as people think we are.
Right.
We're just not as good as we were a year ago.
Or as people think we should be.
So now that you're becoming your own benchmark, how much do you want to panic?
Yeah. Well, and I think there's
it relates to Jaden's question. You know what I mean? Because it's a legit. Yeah, it's a good. I mean, I like that conversation because it's one that needs to be had. But I think that's where they would gravitate towards.
Yeah, hey, our level of success was still high enough. Even in some of the games you lose, the level of success is still high enough. You felt like you gave yourself a chance.
Yeah. And,
right?
and schematically, they will play Iowa much different than they have played anything in the past.
And you just don't know if you make wholesale changes, if you're still giving yourself a chance or not until you see it.
At what cost?
Yeah. At what cost do you make those changes? We'll maybe ask Brian Christopherson that coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and we are efforting our friend Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7 as we get BC. Want to make sure that we – Shane, do we have him? Oh, okay, there we go then. Never mind. We're going to get right to BC right now. Our guy Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. What's going on, man?
How you guys doing?
Hi, BC. How are we? How are you?
We's proper for me sometimes. I have multiple personalities floating around, but
So do I. It's okay.
I'm doing well. We got up early. Last time I was coming to Omaha and I talked on the radio, I said an unfortunate comment, kind of misspoke. So I told my wife I had to get her here, and I said, let's leave early so I can be parked and let's not go through that again. So I'm all parked down in downtown Omaha right now.
Are you? Are one of the two of you at an office, or there's a work-related deal? It's Wednesday. Don't they know that you have to get ready for vacation? I mean, Iowa City,
Yeah,
man, the sunny, balmy destination.
Yeah, they should be aware of that. But she works at Union Pacific in downtown Omaha, so and she's got to play out the string up until Thanksgiving. No days off there. So she's grinding, and here I am in lovely downtown Omaha.
I didn't realize Bill Belichick was running Union Pacific these days. No days off, huh?
That's right. Yeah, you got to keep the railroads going. It's a short week, so we kind of condensed. You're putting a few more, same amount of stories, less time to do it, but that's all right.
BC, we just got an interesting question from our caller, Jaden, about the secondary, and he was kind of wondering about, I guess, why there hadn't been more rotation on the back end yet, whether it was the coaches didn't think the younger guys were ready or they wanted to kind of keep them together as a unit. Like, when you look at it, obviously there's been some issues in the secondary. What's your assessment of why you haven't seen the rotations there that you've seen at a lot of other position groups?
Was the caller or emailer actually Mike Schaefer? And he was going under a different name.
It didn't sound like him. It didn't sound like him.
Okay, because my coworker Schaefer and I have kind of gone round and round about this a little bit. He's on that side of it. I'm always more of that guy who's like, I don't know, you can't just make that. I don't want to say knee jerk. That's not what it is, but that move, just to make a move and assume that it's going to be better. I always worry on the back end with all the communication that's involved, even though we have seen some missteps here and there, that it's very difficult at this point for someone to just sort of step right into the fire in these types of games. That doesn't mean it can't be done, but you don't know if you're going to get the same payout or more. And so it would be a pretty big gamble with players who are going to be really good. Don't get me wrong. And I'm excited about what the bowl practices are going to do for those guys. And I think if you go into the bowl game, maybe you do more stuff like that. But for this particular weekend and the previous one, I was the kind of hold the line guy, trust your veterans to play at a higher level and kind of get that communication stuff in order that was maybe missing on occasion against USC and maybe a couple times against Wisconsin, if we're honest.
Hey, BC, for all the ebbs and flows and ups and downs of this year on special teams, is there a world in which you're thinking in Iowa City, man, if Nebraska wins special teams, fill in the blank, and it's a realistic thing?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because if you had said that back around Purdue game, people would have, mocked you.
More than normal.
Yeah. But I was actually going to ask it, but Rule ended up answering it sort of just on his own about Ed Foley and sort of staying with the process. I thought a question was maybe warranted about how Foley has handled it, because he's certainly a guy who took a lot of criticism in late September. I'm not saying there weren't some things that were out of order with the block kicks and stuff like that, but some of it was basically like you have these 2 or 3 positions within your special teams that if they're not on, everything sort of looks bad, right? Everybody kind of takes that criticism along with like a kicker that's struggling, or in that rare case when it pops up when you're not even snapping the ball well, that falls on like 20, 25 other guys, it seems like, kind of take the brunt of the criticism. So I think I give them credit for not panicking about it and not thinking that everything was on fire just because these 2 or 3 spots needed repairs. Now, there'd still be big problems if suddenly John Hull hadn't come on the way he has. Like, we'd be talking about it much the same way. That's just the interesting part of special teams. There's just so much that's reliant, like in this big picture conversation about a group, on a guy's right foot. And if it's like hitting the ball right, it changes everything. And it changes the confidence as I think the offense proceeds when they know they have a kicker to back them up like that. So I think that's one of the great stories of this season is John Hull. And just the Rule said it after the game. You could tell it's kind of an emotional thing. Like, there was practices this year where he didn't make a kick, as the head coach said. Mm-hmm. And you had guys who were still supporting him. You had your Ja'Cory Barney was one of those guys who was like always with him and trying to get him going. And MJ Sherman, I think, was another guy who called him Johnny and was trying to fire him up. And they stuck with that dude and showed confidence in him when they were seeing him, slice it off, into the woods like I'd be doing off the tee. So I think that's probably one of the best stories of this season as far as just a turnaround and the guy showing some real mental strength.
BC, in a weird way, do you think the fact that Rule was willing to make a move in season and a dramatic one with the offensive coordinator position actually made his decision to stick with Ed Foley feel more I guess kind of impactful, right? Because it wasn't a, hey, I'm just not going to do this in season thing anymore. It was a, hey, I'll do what's necessary. I don't think this is necessary.
Yeah. You said it as well as I could spend a bunch of words on. I think that's exactly right. Like, he showed that he has that in his, that he is willing to do that at a big time move. One of the biggest spots on his coaching staff. And so if there's other spots where he's like, let's just see how this plays out. I've coached with these guys a long time. I mean, he's coached with Ed Foley for, a decade or more. And he knows what he's about and like how he prepares guys, and has obviously believed in him before. So it would strike me as strange if a coach like Matt Rule suddenly, like a month into something when it's sort of going awry, would be like, let's just abandon this, or let's go a complete different direction, when he's in his mind seen a lot of years of work to the contrary that makes him believe in a coach. I remember him last year saying a quote about, it's interesting sometimes a coach who's taking the most criticism on the outside, I think might be doing a good job because I know all the layers and all the stuff that he's working with. And there might be another guy who's getting propped up a lot by everybody. And not that he's not doing a good job, but, maybe he's got a better setup for himself within his room and all that. And so I always try to keep that in mind, that we don't know everything. And, that certainly with all that's on the line and winning now, we've heard Rule say, I'll do what it takes. So if he thinks what it takes is staying put at some spots, you gotta respect that he's at least processing all avenues. Yeah.
So BC, let me ask you something about kind of the coaching perspective and Coach Holgerson, and this is on the heels of seeing Dylan with the guys and being around Lincoln the last couple of days, kind of having fun, and you saw the tie-dyed purple Adidas outfit last night, kind of living his best life. And how much of is it understated, do you think, that Coach Holgerson and kind of this new infusion of practice regimen has kind of helped Dylan get past that freshman wall, right, that we sometimes see guys hit emotionally and physically? He seems to be, I don't know this for a fact, but on the outside he seems to be like kind of recharged, or he seems fresh again, with his personality starting to beam a little. Do you think we probably haven't talked enough about that, huh?
Yeah, I think you're right, Damon. I think he does seem that way. Even after the USC game, there's a little post-game tent we're under, and that was a tough loss. They felt like they could have had that game, and a few plays that Dylan would have wanted back, but he was so steadfast in his belief, like they were going to be better in week 2. Like that's what really stood out to me. And I walked out there and I told Bruns, I was like, they feel like they played like they're going in the right direction right now on offense. And he even said, we'll beat Wisconsin. He said that right there. He said, we're going to play well, we're going to get better, and we're going to beat Wisconsin.
Yeah, but that flew under the radar because it happened.
Yeah. I just think that a lot of guys on offense, and you heard Dana say it yesterday, they didn't have like the points or the numbers necessarily to show for it in Los Angeles. They left some stuff out there, but they knew it was out there and more gettable maybe than it had been, or it felt more in reach. And, also a guy like Dylan's maybe looking at like what they're doing with his buddy Jacory, and you heard Dana yesterday talk about, they were kind of moving him around at 3 different spots, and maybe that's a lot in his head. And, I want a guy just focusing on one spot and doing it really well and playing fast, and it's simplifying. And so I think not only for Dylan's sake, but seeing how others around him were getting that same treatment and the same, okay, this is the direction we're going to go now, and maybe this will help you this way. That probably had to pump him up too, seeing that with other guys also. And so, yeah, I do think there's a definite optimism and lift in their step right now. And it's not like I think people were overly worried like Dylan was going to hit the door or anything. But when you hear Dylan talking about 25 with an eagerness, and you hear Jacory Barney after the game saying this is just a stepping stone, and it seems like he's talking about a future much beyond just the next couple games, in this era we live in, that always, I think, lifts the fan base up, too, when they see that from two of your prominent freshmen talking that way.
We're talking with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, as you look at kind of Dana Holgerson's comments yesterday where he's talking about, hey, the guys that perform the best in practice are the guys that are going to see the field. And you've seen that play out at a couple different positions over the last couple of weeks. How do you process that? It doesn't seem like it should be a shift, but a seeming shift away from maybe this philosophy of, hey, we're going to play the guys we think are the best, not just the guys that are showing it the best Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's important to everybody on the team when they understand, like, there is meaning. If you're going to say there's meaning to what happens on a Wednesday or Thursday, it has to show, like, in the rep count too. Like, if it's going to be stressed 3 days before a game, like, you know, you jump off sides or you have a false start, there's a payment for that. You know, like you're hurting your team with an unforced error, and if it, you know, that's going to happen once in a while. But if it happens, you know, once on a Thursday practice and then you see it again in a Saturday game, that might be enough for a coach to say, you know what, it's not, you got to tighten the screws and you're going to sit over here for a little bit until you do. And, you know, sometimes another guy, like, you know, like we can just talk specifically here in this case, like Borkercher or Lindenmeyer, they've been solid players for this team for a while. And it has to be a huge confidence boost for them to get sort of this treatment from Holgerson and these reps. And you know, you saw Borkercher when he got the ball in space. That didn't surprise me when he took that little pass that maybe should have been 5 yards and he made it 19. Because I remember thinking in the spring game when he caught that ball on the run, I was like, man, he's a fluid dude. Like he's coming along there. And
I love Borkercher.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be much more a part of it this year, like in the pass catching game. I honestly did. I talked all off season about him. Is like, stop, don't forget about Borkercher. And so,
well, how come you didn't yell it? You're so soft spoken. Like, come on, BC, help me out. Yeah. I always used to feel guilty. I'm like, is this just because I like him as a person? No, that's not it. He's really good. And I know I tried to lobby to get his government name changed to Eddie during the broadcast. I don't think that'd sit well with his parents. I mean, Nate is fine, but he is pretty steady. Like, I just think I know what I'm getting every time he's on the field.
Yeah. And everybody over there sees the stuff. So, you know, the guys on the team, they've seen all off season, like, you know, Borkercher and Lindenmeyer, they put in the work. Like, they know that. And so it's not going to bother your locker room to see guys like that get rewarded. The other thing I'd say to this, though, I don't know everything, but I know whenever I've interviewed Thomas Fedoni, he's been a guy who's been very loyal about this program. He grew up a Husker fan, like dressing up as a Husker, you know, on Halloween and stuff like that. So this has always meant a lot to him to be in this program. So I don't just jump to conclusions. I want to see how it plays out. And I like yesterday when Dana comes in and he's very candid about this is why we did what we did. But you know what? Thomas had two of his best practices this week. So we'll see where that takes it. So, you know, we had a nice story with Borkercher and Lindenmeyer. Maybe we have a nice story on Friday where Fedoni gets a big player or two in that game. And so that's the beauty of sports.
I can't believe my guy doesn't have a touchdown.
Yeah. It's hard to believe.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that. There's some things like that. You could name off like 4 or 5 things. You're like, if you had said this in August, you'd be like, well, what? What's that about?
I thought he would lead him in receptions too. Because I'm a big if I was in the lab, I would probably use 75% of his personality to bottle for a player. I like Fedoni.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's wired like his head coach is the head coach.
And I think that's why Coach Rule has an affinity for him. I think you're 100% right, BC.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's see where it goes Friday. Like, it was an interesting storyline in the last game. There's no question when one of your starters, main guys, plays only 3 snaps, it's going to get talked about. But I'm hoping that there's some guys over there that maybe they're on they were on the wrong end of it, and and the fact that they didn't play as much or something happened in that regard. Well, let's see how they answer that. So far, when Holgerson has challenged certain groups or guys, they have seemed to answer that bell. Like you talk about, their perimeter blocking has gotten better. The O-line has played 2 of its best games. The running backs, when challenged to hit some holes better, we've seen some of their best work. So let's see where this one goes.
BC, when talking about whether it's the tight end room or any of these other positions, is the hesitancy to kind of either make these changes or be kind of a hard line, hey, the guys that practice the best are going to play, is the thing that keeps more coaches from that just the inability to stomach the idea in the transfer portal era that you might lose some guys that you just don't want to lose?
That's a great question. I was thinking about that last night. It'd be so hard to coach the way you want to coach sometimes now, I think. Because you are always like, there has to be that fear if you're real about it. Like with a certain player, if you think like he could really help us a year from now, but if his reps dwindle these last few games, what does that mean? As you head into this crazy December, and it is going to be crazy. There's no doubt about that. So I think there's no doubt that weighs on coaches' minds. I don't know. There's probably some coaches who are able to get a little bit past it and just be like, I got to do this the way I've done it, the way I believe in. And, but there probably is some balancing act there that they have to, they're on a tightrope, I think, a little bit with that. And, that this is where maybe it helps, where you get, in this case, you have sort of fresh eyes on it. Everybody kind of understands that in Holgerson. So there's that element that maybe people get like, okay, this guy has a pretty accomplished resume. He just came in from the outside, and his initial look at it is producing these thoughts. Maybe that helps somewhat with players, and they can take it the way they should take it and build off of it. But it's a really fascinating question you brought up that I don't think has an easy answer, and I don't think coaches think it has an easy answer.
So, BC, do you think this will be one of those years where, considering what's going on and how the season's played out, and we have new eyeballs and we have roster limit discussions, where this would be the year where I think fans would not be up in arms over whatever happens in the portal? Kind of, is the expectation level already being set that there should be a fair amount of movement?
Yeah, I think it'll be helped. There are going to be days, and there'll be I'm sure a name or so where it does hit harder. But I wish Malachi the best. But and maybe people were sort of built up for it because the news had kind of traveled that was a possibility before Rule made it known. But I didn't see like an overwhelming or just a panicked reaction about a player who was a big recruit and obviously a local guy. And I didn't think that was disrespectful toward Malachi or what he can do wherever he goes next. It was just more what you're talking about. I do think there are people understanding it's going to be how it's going to be with some guys, and we just got to see how this all how it filters out and you get it down to 105. But it's just simple math, right? I mean, people are looking at it, they're like, they got to get rid of 35 somehow. I better get my stomach ready for whatever's going to happen because it's just coming. There may be some surprises, but I just think if there's any off season for the fan base to probably just chill, I bet it's this one. Yeah.
Right. I don't think they'll be near the hand wringing and consternation because, as Ravi likes to say, much like Thanos, it's inevitable.
Well, I hope you speak that to truth. I hope that's what ends up happening.
Well, you don't want to see 107 posts and 6 pages of on your message board.
Well, that keeps the wheel spinning for the message board. So I guess I'm all right with that. But hopefully people keep cool heads about it. It's going to be a kind of a crazy December like we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So just buckle up and kind of embrace it, and keep some leftover turkey rations in your refrigerator, freezer in case you need it on certain nights. I mean, all that, like everything's got to be. You just got to be at the ready for this. It's going to be a wild month, but at least we got a bowl game, and if you want to talk to a guy who's excited about writing just a Tuesday bowl practice report on December 10th, I'm that kind of guy. Like, I'm excited that we have that again. So that'll help balance it out a little bit too.
I'm just excited that DB is apparently living in Candyland where he thinks there's going to be a drama-free offseason. That's great for him.
Candyland. Wow.
Yeah, remind him of that one of these days in like 3 weeks when someone left and people are losing their mind.
BC, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you again soon. Have a good holiday.
Thanks, BC.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Have you not seen Django Unchained? What's with the Candyland reference? That's what we're on?
That's not the Candyland I meant, DB. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Oh, man.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. You know, we were talking a couple weeks ago about how you and I went out to Foaling Warehouse, Omaha. Now, everybody that we're talking to can go out and check it out as well. Whether it's just a group of your friends, maybe you got some family in town and you're like, oh, man, we got to get out of these houses. These people are driving me crazy. Go over to Foaling Warehouse. They've got 4 huge bays, 30 lanes. It's open to the public. Just go to Foaling Omaha, spelled just like bowling but with an F, foalingomaha.com to reserve a lane. Or, you know, you want to take your whole business over there, they've got plenty of room for you to do whatever you need. They've got 2 huge bars, and you can bring your own food in. They've got the drinks covered, though.
Hey, that place, a lot of wide open space.
Yeah.
And games.
Yes.
Sounds like bringing in this medulla oblongata.
Foaling Warehouse.
That guy just like ran around. It's like, this is like.
Well, you're playing bags and playing.
It's just like wide open.
Giant Jenga.
And my mind doesn't know what to do with it.
They're throwing footballs at bowling pins.
Yeah.
It's like a physical manifestation of DB's brain, just a bunch of stuff rattling around in there.
It's crazy. Yeah, and I mean the bad thing is like if you're buttoned up,
yeah,
like I'll be buttoned up.
Yeah.
If you're a squirrel,
I'll
be a squirrel.
I'm very rarely buttoned up.
Yeah, so
that's not really where I live.
I'm just trying to figure it out.
It's fun for me to try and make you have to try and keep the show on the rails.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
I don't know, man.
What's the saying about the blind leading the blind?
I drive myself crazy.
We're just out there with the seeing eye dogs. I'm just like, can I pet that dog?
You know, we're leaving last night, and LP's like, man, I needed that. That was a fun day. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, I'm the one that's going to get the brunt of the criticism. I mean, a lot of people like this. Some people don't. At least we had a good game.
Oh, yeah, it was. I thought it was a fun It felt a little more Manning cast than like a traditional broadcast, like kind of a couple buddies just like having a conversation around a football game. I like that, though.
Yeah.
I don't think it's for everybody, but I enjoyed it.
Like, if you want dry, I can be dry.
Nah, nobody wants that.
It takes 2 to tango. I mean, I'm telling you, we would, like, I even got I think Larry enjoyed himself so much. He's like, oh, you need to come over.
Oh, he wants to hang out now?
Well, there's an inside joke there. So apparently, and I didn't realize this, his like a couple doors down, it's not 3, it's 4 actually. So don't know.
Not the band? No Kryptonite?
He's neighbors with Tony White.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I knew it was safe to come to his neighborhood.
Big T White guy?
Yeah.
There you go. Let's get to Coody. He wants to talk a little Class B and transfers.
What was that guy's name?
Hopefully he's talking about college transfers because I'm not sure I want to talk about high school transfers. What's going on, Coody?
Coody.
What's going on, gentlemen?
What's up, bud?
Damon,
Yes.
I got a question for you.
What?
Can you NFL aficionado?
No.
Because that reference last night had me. I made my wife rewind. I was like, "Hey, he's talking about me."
So do you know how you know it was bad? I'm going to the restroom, and a couple of older guys that work there, and I know them really well. They, there's like a little low key kind of hidden bathroom for like media and stuff when you're in a hurry, and so they clearly know the layout of the land. And I'm coming out.
Wait,
and
is this the bathroom that you ran into Colt McCoy at?
Yeah, it actually was.
I remember what NBC game was it?
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't Colt McCoy. It was Jack. You ran into Jack in the bathroom. You were talking about it.
Oh no! Oh, that was Colorado. I think that was Colorado.
Okay, yeah.
So anyway, he goes, man, you guys are a hit today. And he's talking to his buddy who's a little older, right? And he's like, yeah, our wives are just cracking up. So I go back into the booth and I tell Larry, I go, I don't know what's going on, but we're being they're referencing us as old ladies, and women are the ones commenting. I think we're probably making the guys mad. It's like, and he's just in tears. But yeah, my little wrestling aficionado. How are things?
The best part is you're talking all this wrestling, and then you have Ron Hickton on it half the.
So I asked Larry, I go, were you just pretending to be the wrestling guy because we knew we were talking to Higgy at half? And he goes, no, we were supposed to start with softball. I had no idea. But Larry's so sarcastic, like you never know if he's being he's a treat, man. Like,
hey, when he rattled off about, I didn't think he would get Macy Peacher, and he knew right away that she was the third one going for 4.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, who told you that?
Laughing.
I'm like, LP, who told you? Who told you?
Yeah,
and he's one of the he's the only guy I know that I can work with that has a shorter attention span than me.
That's dangerous.
No,
I mean, his buddies are just blowing him up, and he can like multitask.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. When I'm announcing wrestling, I can't have my phone near me because I cannot do that. No, I just wanted, first off, to give Tyler his flowers. I hope it doesn't get lost since Bennington did not win on what he did last night. Offensively, defensively, the long kick return. He was unbelievable. And then my final question for you guys, I don't know if you know, when will they start doing the cut for getting down to the roster? Will it be this December so guys can find new homes?
Yeah, I think that process is. Sorry, Coody. That process is already going on.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah. So what?
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Wait, I have a question.
What's up?
I have some questions.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite in Class B?
In Class C wrestling?
Class B for wrestling.
Oh, Class B, Scott.
Wow.
You
need a second, or you need a second, or
there's it's Bennington's going to be close. It's all going to come down to who can make the most points on the backside, because both teams are going to get the majority of their roster to state. But I just don't know what's going to happen with getting their guys. Jets got so many hammers with the Ziola brothers, Tyler Harrell, Rising Johnson, and they're going to be so tough. They got a big transfer from Pleasanton who moved to Omaha with Gatlin Capella. He's been state finalist the last couple of years. So they're loaded. And then Bennington, I mean, you can never count out Alcorn.
Hey, so did you watch Swoboda from Newman?
No, I didn't.
I was going to ask if you thought he was a better wrestler, if you thought he was a better wrestler or a football player.
No, I was working still, so I didn't get to see that game. I listened to a little bit, and
working.
I turned the game on when it was 7-6, and I must have jinxed them because it got out of hand pretty quick.
All right, Coody, man, enjoy the holiday.
Yep, I'll see you in Iowa City Friday.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
I'll be the guy that will still have the dog sniffing my bags to get in, because it's a joy to get into that stadium.
Yeah, I'll be with my boys from the 308, so you'll know where to find me.
All right, buddy.
Those boys from the 308 are not hard to find.
That dude's a baller.
6:30 in Ames or in Iowa City. I'm sorry, blasphemy. on a Friday night.
You would end up in Ames, though.
No, I know where I'm going.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you're a frequent flyer over there.
Yeah, I know where I'm going.
So it's not like the dogs at Memorial Stadium where they let you pet them and stuff?
So there's only a couple of memorable places.
Yeah.
Madison and Iowa City.
Yeah.
Where you get off the bus and you lay your bags out and the dogs are like, and it's going to be pretty cold, so I hope they're efficient.
Yeah, let's move quick.
And they're not all overly friendly, so I will not be trying to engage and interact with their German Shepherds. I say that for Lincoln.
Whatever you guys say.
Dude, I was on Pet Finder last night at like 3 a.m.
Are you trying to find another Frenchie?
No, so I'm open.
Yeah?
Yeah, I used to kind of be married to Frenchies, but I'm open to whatever.
Maybe something a little bigger?
Nah, let's not get crazy.
You don't want a big dog?
So it's more about the hair.
You can get big dogs that don't have a lot of hair.
Well, can I process through this out loud, or are you just going to shoot down?
No, go for it.
Well, that's what I'm processing through.
You don't got to get a German Shepherd. That's a problem hair-wise.
That's such a dream dog.
If you don't want hair around, like that's a bad one.
I know.
Roggy's a mess.
So whatever. Maybe that officer in Lincoln will let me have his dog.
Probably not.
She seemed to like me.
If I had to guess, probably not.
So negative.
Well, they usually keep them after they retire. Usually the officers keep them.
Who's they? The dog? The officer?
Yeah, the officer.
That officer?
Yeah, usually they keep the dog after the dog retires.
Are you sure?
Yeah, a lot of times. You don't have to.
Well,
but
maybe I should go make nice with him. He was very kind.
Maybe you go be a canine cop. You can get a German Shepherd.
You think I have any kind of courage to put my life on the line every day? Not a chance.
Yeah, you and me both, man. That's why we do this for a living.
I do that by coming here.
What'd I do? I'm so nice to you.
Get my heart rate up.
You
ever listen to our feedback? That'll kill you.
I can't wait to talk to our next guest, Brian Edwards. Go Billy Napier.
We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
The way they're using the cream cheese to butter the bagel.
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Here's Brian Edwards as we wrap up hour number 2 on Hurrdat Sports Radio. DB, I'm Ravi Lulla. B, what's going on, man?
Good morning, fellas. Early happy turkey.
Well, what are you doing being like up and at 'em and audio's working and everything 2 weeks in a row? Is this going to be a thing now?
Yep, I'm on top of things. On top. We're coming down the stretch, and
you're on your A game, huh?
Yeah. There you go.
Almost as much on your A game as Billy Napier and those Florida Gators, baby.
Oh man, I'm stuck. I'm stuck with him forever now.
Yeah, as is Florida.
You might as well root for him. You might as well root for him now.
Got to.
Are you ever going to come around?
I mean, he's still 2-10 in rivalry games and 12-19 against Power 5 competition, and I mean, we're supposed to win in the swamp always, in my opinion.
He's turning a corner, B. Yep. He's turning a corner.
He's still below 500. What took so long?
Listen, you had a tough week last week. I mean, you would have missed on your Charleston Southern plus 33.5 against Florida State.
You know what? I didn't. I forgot all about the Charleston Southern play. I forgot all about it. Did not do it, thankfully.
Florida State covered by half a point.
Yes, they did.
Oh, shoot. All right, let's stay close to home and start with hoops. Texas A&M, who fans around here remember as the team that throttled Nebraska in the tourney last year, get one of the other in-state faves in Creighton. 3.5 coming off a interesting performance against SDSU yesterday. What do you like?
Yeah, look, I'm not like throwing stones at Creighton because I have full confidence Greg McDermott will get that team going later in the year. And hopefully they'll get Ashworth back in the next week or so. But without Ashworth right now, they're absolutely lost. They had nothing going offensively yesterday. Kalkbrenner looked slow, tired. And A&M, they had a 5-game winning streak. They get snapped 80-70 to Oregon, but they led by 3 at halftime, and it was tied with the minute 22 left, and Oregon finished on a 10-0 run. I think A&M bounces back. I like them minus 3.5.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that number should be a lot higher than it is, B, after watching Creighton the last couple games. That doesn't – I honestly, I probably would have made that number like 7.5 if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I completely agree.
B, as we get into some football this weekend, obviously a lot of plays over the next few days, but what is your – we're talking Florida State. How are you feeling about that one?
Well, I feel better about it if you're like 14.5 and can buy the half point to 14 on Florida. And I got only one of my accounts has posted first half plays, and I got -7, -120 for the Gators in the first half. So I like both of those with Lagway playing like he is, and the defense playing a lot better. I think Florida handles this business here. And covers in the first half and the game.
Oh, so you're going? Are you doing multiple plays there, or are you just picking one?
Yeah. No. Florida -14 for the game. If your number's 15, just lay the 15 and -7 in the first half. Both of those.
There you go. One of the other big ones this week. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. Is because I thought this was maybe the most interesting play you gave us this week. That A&M and Texas game. Texas is a 5.5 point favorite. What do you like?
I like A&M. I like them being in bounce back mode. And, Texas is 1-4 against the spread in its last 5. The only spread cover against Florida when it had a third string quarterback and, was, coming out of the Georgia game. A&M hasn't been quite as strong here down the stretch, but I expect perhaps their best effort of the year at home in this rivalry game. I think the crowd will be a big factor, and I like the Aggies +5 or 5.5.
Let's go to one of the academies with the Aztecs. How important will the hook be between 3.5 and 3 here?
Look, if you can get it at -130 or cheaper, I would do it. If it's more expensive than -130 to buy it to 3, don't worry about it. Air Force has covered 4 in a row. I mean, it took them a while to get it together, but they're playing their best down the stretch. They've won 3 in a row. And flip side, San Diego State, they're in danger of finishing with its lowest win total in more than a decade. They've lost 5 in a row, including back-to-back losses by margins of 21 points apiece. And Air Force beat up on them 49-10 last year and won 13-3 in San Diego 2 years ago. I like Air Force, hopefully -3, but 3.5 is okay as well.
B, there's a couple teams here. One that DB doesn't think is very good. One that we never know who they are, depending on what week it is.
Oh, Arkansas.
Missouri and Arkansas. Missouri's a 3-point favorite. How do you handicap a game like this?
I think this is my favorite play of the week.
Ooh, okay.
I have, I was on Missouri last week against Mississippi State. Pretty comfortable spread cover. I wasn't on them, but 2 weeks ago they covered at South Carolina and played a heck of a game. Let's buy the half point from. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. We don't have to buy the half point. It's a clean 3 right now. Missouri's covered in 3 straight. And Brady Cook looked sharp last week, 15 of 20, 268 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He's now got a 9-2 TD-INT ratio, 4 rushing TDs. And Missouri's won back-to-back and 7 of the last 8 over Arkansas, including 48-14 in Fayetteville last week. And Arkansas has dropped 3 of their last 5, both straight up and against the spread, and the losses by margins of 24, 32, and 10. I like Mizzou -3, and this is my favorite play of the week.
One of these teams, kind of like Arkansas, when they don't turn the ball over, you wouldn't be surprised if they won a game or not. And I guess the rivalry keeps the line low, but Kentucky catching some points at home against Louisville. Kentucky's hard to cap. But what do you think?
Yeah, well, they've just owned this rivalry, and I think I've been on them all 5 times. They've won 5 in a row, both straight up and ATS against Louisville, and didn't always have the best team, and yet has just dominated the rivalry that I believe they call the Governor's Cup. And I like what I saw of the young quarterback Boley last week. And Kentucky got a couple of defensive players back healthy. And it wasn't always pretty last week, but got some turnovers and got me the spread cover. But I just think they own this rivalry, and they're at home. Give me Kentucky +3.5 or 4.
All right, let's move over to the NFL. At least there's one good team playing on Thursday. We got the Lions, at least. We may not have much else, but we've got the Lions. They're 6.5-point favorites in the first half, -10 for the game. What do you like there?
Yeah, I'm going to go Lions -6.5 in the first half. That's my favorite play on this game. I'll also be on them -10, but I like the first half better. So they have raced out to leads of 28-6 versus Jacksonville, 35-14 to Tennessee, 21-7 to Seattle at halftime of their last 3 home games. And in 5 of their last 6 road games, the only admission being the Houston game, they have had halftime leads of 14-6 at Indy, 17-3 at Green Bay, 21-10 at Minnesota, 27-6 at Dallas, 20-10 at Arizona. They're just a machine, and the Bears are winless in 4 road games, 0-3-1 against the spread, and they've lost 5 in a row, and they hate their head coach. So Detroit -6.5 in the first half and -10 for the game.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question the Bears-Lions is going to outdraw the Giants and the Cowboys. I can't believe the dysfunction. And be full disclosure, 3 weeks ago I said I'd much rather be the Giants as an organization than Dallas. One of my more genius things that I've said. OMG, that thing in the last 2 weeks has become a legit dumpster fire. Let me ask you about the Chargers, Brian, because it seems like, at least anecdotally, and you may know more getting behind the numbers, it seems like the public has been kind of slow to back them. Maybe they're just reluctant. They seem like they're a pretty good football team. They're laying a short number on the road. I guess the Falcons are dangerous. They're right there in your backyard, but it seems like the Chargers are a better team than the public probably thinks.
I agree with that, and I think they're a better team than the Falcons, although the spot heavily favors the Falcons with 2 weeks to prepare and the Chargers traveling across country off of a Monday night game. But I don't care. I just think the Chargers are a lot better. I trust Harbaugh to get his guys ready. I think that the Chargers have the head coaching advantage, and I like the Chargers minus 1.5 or 2, or if your money line's minus 125, maybe just go that route. I think the Chargers get it done. The Falcons slumping here, and 4 targets for Kyle Pitts last 2 games, 2 losses, whereas he was starting to all of a sudden get 7, 8, 9 targets a game, and they were winning, scoring points, and he was racking up yards and touchdowns. They got away from that, which they often do. Give me the Chargers.
B, last one here before we let you go. Colts minus 2.5 at Pats.
Yeah, I just think that Anthony Richardson's playing better, and I think the Colts are better, even though they're on the road at 3 or fewer. I got to go Colts, and not against fading the Jets either with Seattle and like the Bengals and Steelers over 48. Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving.
B, have a great holiday.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You know, we're excited about taking another step. You know, it's gonna be harder. We all know that. Iowa's a really good football team. They play great defense. They have for what's it going on 25 years now. You know, I remember my second year at Texas Tech, 2001. We played Iowa in the Alamo Bowl, and it's the same thing. You know, 20 some years later, it's the same scheme, same coach, same everything. This is crazy, you know. So it's going to take another good effort and more improvement to be able to, you know, go to Iowa and play in that atmosphere against a good football team.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. And there's a bunch of college football stuff we need to get to, DB.
College football.
We love college football.
I love college. I love sports.
I like sports too.
Yeah.
Isn't sports fun?
Sports is great. I watched Carolina get their head beat in. I don't even know why I didn't fast forward to the key plays.
Yeah.
Which is what I should have done.
Yeah.
But I couldn't.
With Auburn last night?
Yeah, but yeah. I couldn't turn it down. I was still
revving high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Carolina.
Yes. I know. So my man just says, "Oh, hey, I'm coming back. I'm not retiring." And they're like, "No."
They're like, yeah,
no, you're not.
You actually have to discuss that with other people.
Isn't that crazy? You don't think because we
said
joked
that when it happened.
Yeah, we're like, "Oh, does North Carolina know that?" Yeah. That's exactly what I said.
Because we're like, oh, I guess Mac Brown.
And then it was quiet for like a week, so I was like, oh, they respect Mac,
cool.
like they're gonna let him go out how he wants to. And I'm like, no, he's not.
No, you can't. I mean, you can't bring him back next year. Or can't allow him to come back next year, which obviously they're not going
to.
Well,
they nipped that in the bud.
Yeah, pretty quick. They're like, you can coach the last game. That's all.
And it's the Wolfpack, right?
Yeah,
and I
NC
think
State.
that game is just a field goal.
Yeah, it's NC State, but that's it. I mean, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think that's low-key a very good football job.
Yeah.
And we'll see what kind of talent it attracts, but I want to see – I don't know. I kind of want to see North Carolina be good at football.
You have a strange affinity for them.
I do. You know what it is?
No. Ebenezer Ekubon?
No.
Greg Ellis?
There's a couple.
Lawrence Taylor?
It's a little before my time.
Dre Bly?
I did like Dre Bly.
Johnson & Johnson?
No.
Really?
Was, you know what? It's a guy you don't like very much.
Why am I not surprised that the tie that binds you, myself, and Carolina would be centered around somebody I don't like? I mean, could you just made it easy?
No. Can't ever make it easy.
Noah Brown? Nate Brown?
We've talked about him. Recently, I think. So there's 2 reasons I like Carolina. I'll let you think for a second while I give you the obvious one.
Okay.
Well, 3 probably. Number 1, I'm a big Jordan guy, right? So like North Carolina because of Jordan, right? Easy peasy, whatever. Super basic. It is what it is. Number 2.
Big Joe Forte guy, King Rice.
I actually really did love Joe Forte. But I was a big Rashad McCants guy, good shooter. I was also a big Wayne Ellington guy.
He could stroke it.
I liked Ty Lawson. I liked Ed Cota. I was a big Ed Cota guy.
Me too. You're leaving out Jeff McInnes, but that's okay.
McInnes was a little early for me because he was on the 93 team, right? He was a little early for me. My first real memories of a Carolina point guard are Ed Cota.
So why do you like? So who is the football
guy you don't like? I think you didn't like him as a basketball player, though.
Oh,
I liked Ronald Curry.
How are you of all?
I just liked Ronald Curry, man. He was, and listen,
You be you.
I get he was a super flawed both basketball and football player, but he was electric. And when you're, when was he playing? Late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah.
Like when I'm middle school, high school, I maybe not have been as much into the efficiency at the time. He was just electric to watch. Like he was something else when he was going.
This dude said electric. That's kind
he
of
was. He was. Come on. You know he was.
He said you're trying to
come on.
No, you're not.
Ronald Curry, electric. Here's the other thing though, and this is a stupid reason.
You could have said Eddie Curry, and I would have been like, oh yeah, more promising career.
Famously not a North Carolina guy.
High school,
Tim Curry.
man.
Anybody.
This dude said Tim Curry.
I really
he's electric like the slide.
You could have said Curry Chicken.
You know who I believe was
no, actually you couldn't have, never mind.
Actually more of a butter chicken guy myself. But maybe like a paneer tikka masala.
Nah.
Or gulab jamun. I know that's your favorite.
Apparently Zoe had Indian yesterday and smashed it.
Or hemoglobin.
Yeah, blood flow, man.
You want a deep cut curry that was associated with North Carolina? You remember James On Curry?
Oh, fudge. They've had more folklore legends that never turned out to be.
He never even played for him, did he?
Nope.
He was committed, and then he ends up getting in trouble and ends up at Oklahoma State. Yeah. That is
a deep.
That's a deep cut.
I'm impressed though
that I knew that one.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
I remember him with Oklahoma State and then that whole backstory. But no, so my super basic reason is I love the Baby Blues and the Argyle, like the Argyle designs that you do on stuff.
Yeah, I'm out.
I love it.
I have a quarter zip short sleeve.
Yeah.
I don't wear it. It's Carolina. It's supposed to be like a basketball button up.
Yeah.
Or zip up. I don't rock it, but it's pretty.
Yeah. They've got elite uniforms.
My brother gave me an amazing. He used to do work in Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
He brought back a couple of deals. They're just too small.
Oh yeah.
But
they're great looking though.
Yeah.
They have
I know a couple of Mac. I told you Coach Lichty, Norris Hoops coach, huge Mac Brown.
Really?
And he comes up in conversation just because we're always talking about the Steelers together. But I just can't believe like he shot a shot and then they did him like that.
Yeah,
Texas is a powerful player.
He probably knew the way it was gonna go and figured
Got
that was
out
his
in front.
He probably thought it was his only shot to give himself a shot.
Yeah.
Because if you're kind of backed into a corner and you're like, I think I see the writing on the wall.
Do you think that's a better job than I do? I don't know.
I think he tried to call their bluff and they're like, no, we're moving on.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a really good job.
Speaking of North Carolina guys, it's Jeff Saturday.
You big Jeff Saturday guy?
Well, he played at Carolina.
I'm not a big Jeff Saturday guy.
I kind of like him because
he
keeps it 100.
Yeah, I just don't care. Like he's fine. I don't have any sort of
like Turkey.
No, I actively dislike Turkey.
I think that's a hot take. I think it's popular to hate on Turkey. Turkey's like, how can you feel one way or another about Turkey?
I've been on this. I was on the front edge of this.
Now I could see Ham. It's popular to hate on Ham.
I like Ham.
Based.
I like Ham. I think Ham's good. I'd take Ham over Turkey any day of the week.
Shocker.
100%.
No, they're both fine.
Turkey,
I'd smoke both of them, but.
I think Ham is fine. I like Ham more than I like Turkey for sure. I am out on
Turkey.
It's
just popular to hate on Turkey.
I invented the popularity
Turkey never
to
did
hate on Turkey. Yes, it did. It dried people. It probably has choked some people.
Because if you can't cook.
Listen, a lot of people can't cook. This is not news. You ever been?
Says the guy. Never mind. Let's get back to
knowing how all of our in-laws have a thing in common over our various marriages,
yes,
you are very familiar with people who are unable to cook turkey.
This dude said.
You can feel the tension in the air. It's thicker than Wicks.
As if Putney wasn't bad enough. Really? That's just why you bringing up old stuff.
I'm just saying. A lot of people in that group that can't properly season things or cook things.
I might have smoked it too.
I don't know what you're saying.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Man.
Okay. I'm just,
my goodness.
putting that out there.
Wow.
So why don't you think North Carolina's as good of a job as I do?
Because everybody's supposed to be able to have success there, and it just hasn't. I don't know.
There's a lot
it's
of
not
places
quite
like
A&M.
that, though.
Oh, I know. There's tons. A&M, Auburn. But all those programs.
You know the difference between those programs in North Carolina, though, is football is the second fiddle at North Carolina, which I actually think helps. In that situation, I think it helps.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like Auburn, if you're bad, like
you should hit up Fedora. He was going to be the man.
And
Mac had early success.
He did. He's generally been successful.
We thought Mac was like what do you call
reinvigorated?
There you go.
Yeah. Because I thought when they hired him, I was like, what are you guys doing?
You're on that reinvigoration thing because of Game Day Men's.
I am, man. I'm feeling good. I thought they
said something inappropriate.
Like, how would that be any different? I thought they were crazy when they hired him because he hadn't coached in a while. I thought he was, I was like, that dude's old and washed. What are we doing? And he had a pretty good run there early. It's obviously faded off. I think there's a certain point where, like, he looks tired, I think. And I think the way college football has gone, you just can't be that anymore unless you've got, like, Saban probably could have kept doing it because he kind of had the infrastructure in place. But he also got tired, right? Like, I think that's a hard job to do as you age and lose some of your energy. Maybe they need to go to Game Day Men's Health.
Yeah.
But
just do it.
Part of the reason I think Carolina's a better job than, like, Auburn is I think the expectations for Carolina football are fairly reasonable, whereas Auburn has totally outlandish expectations.
The funny thing is, like, if you just kind of go through the laundry list of Carolinians in the NFL over the past 25 years, it's an amazing list.
They've had a really good talent.
Yeah,
and that's part of the reason I like the job because you can get really good players there.
Yeah,
and
everybody wants a Greg Ellis.
It's a winnable.
Shoot, Dallas would take Greg Ellis back.
They might take Mark McCarthy back. So I don't know if that's as.
Was he just talking?
I mean, it's Jerry Jones, so probably.
So he did douse the Dion deal, and I didn't get to this because, obviously, life got in the way.
A lot going on,
but like Jerry's interesting. I don't know if
that's the word I'd use, but he's something. You think he's still firing on all cylinders?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it's not that much different than he's been the last 20 years. Like, this is kind of who he is.
Yeah, I would be curious to see if he pulled this off after all that's been said in that locker room and in the media behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Pulled what off?
Keeping McCarthy.
Keeping McCarthy there?
I mean, maybe like guys like Parsons were like they go behind closed doors and apologize. But I'm not a big embarrass me in public and apologize in private guy.
I just used that on somebody the other day.
You got it from me.
I know I did. I gave you credit too. I was like, hey, you don't get to do that publicly and then send a text message later and be like, oh, my bad.
You should see my DMs. There's like some hateful people, and it's like, I don't know if they're drunk or, and then like later on, it's like, hey man, my bad.
Yeah.
Like, you guys.
Yeah, it's always like, oh, they're trashing you on the timeline, and the apology comes in the DM, right? Yeah, we don't play like that. It's not how we do that here.
So I don't know about that job though, because clearly, you got to fill probably both New York jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Your boy is now safe as a kitten and will be in the discussion for Coach of the Year in Philadelphia.
My guy Nick Sirianni
told you quietly that's a really, really good football team.
They are.
And he's not going to get credit. And I heard my man Canty, and I love Canty because he's not a contrarian, but he does he acts way more player than media.
Yeah.
And he's like, why would you give that guy credit? He's just become the CEO and removed himself. He didn't even hire his coordinators. And I was like, sometimes that's part of it.
Yeah. Self-awareness is part of it.
Right?
Maybe a really big part of it.
But Philadelphia's legit.
I think Austin asked me yesterday. He goes,
No, they got to play without slaying Graham. But
he goes, do you trust that if I had to pick somebody to make the Super Bowl, do I trust Philadelphia more or Baltimore more?
You asked me the same question last year.
And I landed on Philadelphia.
Was that Austin's question?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
It is a good question.
I meant to pick a bone with Austin yesterday.
What did he say?
We put a terrible picture out on social media, and I got murdered.
Really?
And I just had to eat it. I mean, people with their snarky comments and stuff, so it's like, I'm like, he should have asked me if he could tweet that out.
Was it from, like, the game?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
And you get the you suck and act joy. I'm like, Austin, run that by me. Well, it's really not his fault that people are like that.
Give me a heads up, brother.
Yeah, I'm telling you, your boy is like Team Teflon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta be.
Oh, 100%.
Gotta be.
So, the cool thing?
What's
and
that?
this is weird, and I told this to Coach Samaji. Like, doing what he's going through made all the criticism, like the snark and...
Yeah, none of that matters.
Yeah, it made it a lot more bearable.
Yeah.
It's funny.
That's low-key one of the things that I've always liked about you is... I'm going to say something nice right here. You ready? Can you prepare yourself? I know this doesn't happen very often. Shane, make sure you mark this.
That's all.
Austin, I know you're listening. You might have to clip this out later. One of the things I've always appreciated about
Say
you
what you got to say.
is people talk crazy to you a lot, but like you have been through some real life stuff, and you have this ability to keep everything in perspective most of the time that I've always admired. And that's one of the things I feel like we sort of bonded over is like, hey, I've been through real stuff. I don't care. Like the craziness I can take or leave, which I've always appreciated. That's my guy right there.
It's funny too, because I spent my whole drive and I was late because I had to get ding dong. This little girl is going to be the end of me. But I had to drop her off before I went to Lincoln.
Yeah.
And I'm taking her to my sister-in-law's, and Josie's hilarious. Like, she's just up partying unto herself. And I mean, this little girl, her hair and the pajamas and, picking out her clothes. And I'm like, look, girl, like, Dad's on the clock. 8:15. We got to be. She's asking for pancakes late. So I called my man down at Gavin, our producer, and I said, hey, G-man, like, I know I said 9:10. It's going to be closer to like 9:30. Don't panic. Like, we'll hit this on one take and we're good to go. And in the meantime, like, DJ called. So I talked to him for 37 minutes.
I'll say that's door to door.
Almost like, and I waited.
Almost exactly.
I circled the stadium because he was still talking. I'm telling you.
Yeah, because it's like 34 door to door, isn't it?
Yeah, got me through the day.
There you go.
Right. But so like the sports thing, it's for the jobs and for guys like Jerry Jones and McCarthy, because I think Deion stays. He put water on that the other day. I don't think you have old boy commit at the quarterback spot without Deion staying. And Deion kind of does what you don't expect him to do. So I think everybody says he's leaving Colorado.
Yeah, but he wants to subvert expectations.
Yeah. So I think he's going to at least.
I think there's only one scenario in which he leaves. And that's if whoever drafts Shador wants to bring him.
I think he knows his own limits.
Maybe. I just think that would be in general really hard to say no to.
And he's not in control.
Yeah.
Like
in the NFL,
yeah.
Like Colorado's his party.
Like, so I could see there's only one or two guys I could see Jerry Jones hiring.
I just think that would be really hard to say no to.
And I think Vrabel's going to have his pick. So
Vrabel should definitely have his pick.
Can you believe that guy's not coaching?
No, I cannot.
I mean, you say what you want about Belichick. Vrabel can get some help with clock management.
At least you can I understand Belichick because he's in his mid-70s. Like, I get it, right? I can understand being like, I don't know, and it did not look good at the end in New England, right?
You know who somebody needs to hire?
Who?
If you have a blossoming team, you have some good core pieces. You're young, but you need some substance. You need to hire Pete Carroll.
Ooh, that's it. He does seem more energetic, even though him and Belichick are the exact same age.
They're not the
but
same.
they're polar opposites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll is still sitting out there.
Yeah. He is a guy that would be really interesting in certain spots.
Do you
have a team on top of your head that fits that mold for Pete Carroll?
Yeah, but they don't need a coach.
Who?
You know where Pete Carroll would be fantastic?
Where?
Atlanta.
Yeah. I could see that.
Rams.
Yeah.
Seattle.
The Rams, ironically enough.
He would be.
The Rams certainly don't need a coach.
So one team is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he wants to get into a bad front office deal.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Chicago. That's where Vrabel should go.
Would be. He may be a little too dry for Caleb.
Okay.
Vrabel. I don't know if you know this about Vrabel. Pretty nonsensical.
Pretty no nonsense.
Nonsense. Like
nonsensical is a different thing than no nonsense.
He's about no nonsense.
Yes, correct, 100%.
Okay, so
and Caleb might be a little.
And I'm not saying Caleb is. He just may be a little too extra for Vrabel. Carroll could manage that
100%.
But I just don't know about Chicago's front office. If I'm Chicago, I'm totally calling. They need maturity.
Yeah.
If that team can mature, they would be very, very
Carroll
scared.
at Chicago is interesting.
I'm telling you.
That's a good one. So where does Vrabel go if you don't like him in Chicago because of the front office?
You know why?
Or because of Caleb?
I would hire Vrabel in New York.
Jets or Giants?
Giants. It's a good ownership group.
They are. That is good. Low key, that is a good. That's the difference between the Jets and the Giants.
If I'm the Giants, I hire.
Because I probably like the Jets roster better right now. Overall, unless I get hamstrung with Aaron Rodgers again next year. But I agree, the ownership group between the Giants and the Jets dramatically better.
Yeah, I would.
That's actually a functional organization.
If I'm the Giants, I hire Vrabel.
That's a good call. And now you get to pick your own quarterback now.
Yeah, and just imagine Pete Carroll in Chicago.
Yeah, because Pete Carroll can definitely deal with
their defensive pieces.
Yeah,
they would get back. Like I'm just telling you,
they'd be good immediately, right away.
Yep,
that's a really good call. I'd forgotten Pete Carroll. Like I'd forgotten all about him.
You know, because there's some bad jobs, right? I mean,
Vegas is a terrible job.
Vegas is bad.
Jets is a bad job.
Where's this? I think the Saints is a bad job.
Oh, I agree. The Saints is a very bad job. Horrible job.
Although they're going to have some money coming off the books, but
are they going to spend it? Having money and spending money aren't the same thing.
Now that conference may be a little advantageous.
Yeah, NFC South is winnable. But what's that? I don't know that I love that. Saints is a better job than Vegas or Jets to me.
Agreed.
But I still think it's not a great job. Like it's somewhere between. Like it's probably a lower middle class job if I had to give it a spot.
It's not open, and we talk about it as though it is. What about Jacksonville?
I don't think that's a good job.
I can't believe I'm going to say this because I make fun of you about Trevor Lawrence, but he is good enough if you have a guy that believes in him.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's I don't know if lost cause is the right term, but we're pretty deep.
Jeez.
No, but we're pretty deep into it for him to change who he is or what he's been.
Yeah.
Like he's had a couple good years. Obviously the talent's there. But however you want to quantify his talent, whether you're in my camp or in your but he's talented regardless. Like however you want to measure it.
Did you see Austin?
Not yet. Hyper talented guy, whatever, however you want to quantify that. But I don't know if it's just too. Like, are we too deep into it for him to change his spots? Like, can a Jaguar change his spots? That's the $1 million question.
He's young.
I actually don't.
But he is seasoned and more mature. I mean, he's been married for 4 years.
At least, I think. And he's been in the NFL for a while now.
Yeah.
I mean, is he in year 6?
5.
I'm not sure. But he's not young, right?
Right.
And
I mean, kind of.
He's not new. I should say he's not new. He is pretty young still. I think he's still only 26, 27.
Kind of like how you act, brand new.
Yeah, I act like I just got here.
Trevor Lawrence is only 25.
Jeez. So, I mean, maybe you bet on that, but you are saddled with him if it doesn't work out because of the contract.
This dude said saddled with a guy that he called a generational talent.
Listen,
Well,
just because you're generational talent doesn't mean you're going to ever be any good.
You just want a quarterback, don't you?
Hey, your quarterback is saddled up too. Let's ride.
Wow.
Was that a shot at me?
That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Oh.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, Camp-O-War, and Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets, whether it's in Lincoln or in Omaha. Get out to the casino and get your sports bets in live. You've got your in-game, your parlays, your straight bets, whatever you can think of, props. They've got you covered on nearly every major sporting event, including all the ones coming up this weekend. A lot of good football, a lot of good basketball.
Watching my dog with the zoomies.
Can I bet on Buddha?
Dude, that's how Frenchies are.
I know.
They just
They're
are.
just like little balls of energy. It's incredible. Do you have a favorite game this weekend?
No, not yet.
Okay. You're not
yet.
like geared up for one?
I'm not super locked.
Okay.
You're
gonna spend a day kind of figuring it out?
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I'm worried about what's gonna show up at my house later. So I'm not Caleb has
who's gonna show up at your house?
Yes. Man, if he brings some of these yahoos,
you afraid the whole quartet might show up?
Caleb Benning.
It's just too hard it's too cold to cook. But I'm contrary to the stereotypes, I am a brother that will grill out in the cold. So
is that a stereotype?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And I'm not moving my stuff to the garage.
Yeah,
man.
no.
I'm out there on the deck braving the elements.
Yeah, you gotta have a little drink, keep you warm.
That'd be great.
Right?
Although on a day like today, with my one would turn into 31. So
well, maybe we stay off of that then.
You don't even take a do until Friday. You're good.
Dude, we leave tomorrow.
Well, just have somebody drive you.
Just have Caleb.
Hey, can I get a ride to Iowa City? No, we fly out.
No, you have Caleb take you down to the airport though with you. Like, hey, bud, let's go.
Dude, be like, who are you? Who's this guy?
Just make sure the quartet leaves an extra spot in the car for you. Let's get to our guy. We got a special caller in Bet On It. He's very familiar with the gambling scene. Our guy, Big A. What's going on, bud?
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
What's up, big timer? How you feeling?
Happy Thanksgiving to Ravi. I don't know if I can...
Is it the gravy thing? He make you mad with the gravy again?
If you are ever in New York, do not tell Big Phyllis about this sauce and gravy stuff. You are not welcome. Mama Dukes will not be cooking you dinner. We will take you to I'll take you to like a kale bar or something, because this stuff is this is bananas at this point, man.
Are you serious? What? I'm a protein guy, Big A. I don't like my meat wet. What's wrong with that?
I prefer it that way.
These people, we go to these steakhouses and stuff, and there's this béarnaise sauce and stuff. I'm like, why would you ruin good protein?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know if you try to walk me into these trapdoors with some of the things you say to me.
Big A.
I'm just telling you right now.
Big A, are you a big wet meat guy?
Man, I love my meat wet.
Oh, God.
I tell you what, up here in it's closing day at Finger Lakes. I found a great person to go to eat with.
Oh.
You me too, buddy. We had a good time here the last 3 weeks of this meat.
But I got a question up there, though. I have a question for the pizzas, right? Because I know you like pizza. But the pizza up there is not overly sauced. Are you okay with that?
It's not overly anything. This is the worst garbage I've ever eaten in my life.
Oh, is it really? Okay. That makes sense. What makes it bad? Because of that?
Monday night, I had some homemade fajitas.
Yeah.
And burrito bowls.
Yeah.
Man, this young lady can cook it. She could cook it, my man.
Did she re-fall in love? Because I know you were shooting your shot hard. You're like, I'm rooting for you. She come back around?
Oh, no, there's a new one.
Oh, what happened? What happened?
What happens in Farmington stays in Farmington. We're still working on that.
It's a new one, and she's cooking for you already?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I think that's part of the entrance exam to hang out with Big A is cooking, right?
Yeah, it's a big. It's a very distant second in things of importance that they bring to the table. But yes,
I think we already talked about the first one today, Big A.
We have absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So what's a Thanksgiving look like for you though? What's ideal?
So I'm driving home tonight. I got a 5.5-hour drive home from Farmington to go home. Mom's making the stuffing as we speak, preparing the stuffing as we speak. So we'll get home, get to sleep, get up in the morning. My only contribution is the cucumber salad. Grandma passed away 10 years ago. She used to make it. I took that over. I make the cucumber salad so I can say I participated. And then I eat anywhere between 3.5 and 6 pounds of food from 3:30 in the afternoon until about 9 at night. The usual, like normal people. I put a ton of gravy on my food because I'm like 11% brown gravy. And turkey stuffing, mashed, candied yams, candied carrots, regular yams, corn, mushrooms, the cucumber salad, the best rye bread in the world, baked by my man Giovanni. And I got a guy named Giovanni making me the best rye bread in the world. I'm OG.
He's a little backwards.
Big A, that's the most Italian sentence I've ever heard in my life. My bread guy Giovanni,
making rye.
He makes everything.
Yeah.
Mom's got the greatest cheesecake in the world in the oven as we speak, getting ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be like me saying, my best friend Tom whipping up the best macaroni and cheese ever. Yeah, I probably would never.
It's not happening. No, not happening.
Big A, let me ask you.
Hey, my friend Betty.
Let me ask you about the menu here, Big A, because I know some of the big Italian families don't always do the traditional Thanksgiving. Sometimes they give a little more Italian twist with some of the dishes. Are you like a traditional Thanksgiving guy, or you go a little more Italian with it?
We've never had anything except the bird and the trimmings.
Okay.
Mom's very, very strict about that.
What's the best side?
And I'm okay with that. I mean, you can throw a guy a stuffed mushroom every now and then. That's fine. But I mean, she doesn't do it. Her stuffing's out of this world. Her stuffing is and it's very simple. She puts mushrooms and liver. Now, you couldn't get me to eat a piece of liver on a bet.
Yeah.
You could tell me I wasn't getting meat for a month, and I'm not eating a piece of regular liver, buddy. But in this stuffing, it makes the stuffing goated. I mean, the stuffing's out of this world.
It's weird like that because I know some people like livers in their dirty rice, and I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know, man. I'm going to take your word for it, but it doesn't sound appealing. Is it cooked first and then in the oven, or is it brown in the oven?
Cooking right now.
Okay.
Liver's cooking right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to stay out of the liver situation because you're definitely going to make fun of me if I don't. But Big A, what? So we got the stuffing. What are we doing dessert wise? I know you're a dessert guy. Come on.
Greatest cheesecake in the world. She's baking the greatest cheesecake in the world. Gallagher Steakhouse in Manhattan is the only steakhouse the only place in the world that can rival her cheesecake. Her cheesecake is second to none. And it's a basic American cheesecake. She'll make a little homemade strawberry topping for that, but I stay away from the straw. I don't want to start eating too many vegetables and fruit. I don't need to go into anaphylactic shock on Thanksgiving. If I start eating some of this natural stuff, I don't know what's going to happen to my body. I mean, it took a long time to get this physique. I tell people all the time, people tell me to get in shape. I tell them round is a shape. So I'm good. I ain't going to mess with these vegetables and fruit.
Overrated.
Wake up with a little bowl of Cheerios to get the stomach going. Maybe start a little half a salami sandwich at about noon, and then whip up for a big day of eating.
Hey, I got one for you too. If you can pull over or maybe use your phone app, or I'm sure there's stuff up and down the drive on your way home. But take the Louisville Cardinal today, getting 3 from Indiana here in about an hour.
Louisville Cardinals getting 3. Okay.
Yeah.
I love the Packers tomorrow. I don't really get involved anymore, but I love the Packers tomorrow.
So, why? No, I'm just asking. I mean, you usually get an inkling. I like the way you think.
I love the Packers. If I'm being completely honest,
yes.
I have a friend that really loves the Packers tomorrow. I did not expect to put on the spot. My buddy's gold. My buddy is gold. He loves the Packers tomorrow. I gotta change the names to protect the innocent here.
Your buddy Mike.
Big A out here.
Andy.
Andy, yeah.
Andy loves the Packers tomorrow.
Now, if you just said Vito or like you could have dropped some names and I'd have been like, oh yeah, he's in the know.
He's changing names to protect the guilty. Definitely.
I'm telling you, Big A, you can get a whole salami sandwich if you take the Cardinal.
Buddy, I listen. I can get 12 salami sandwiches whether the Cardinals win or lose. You gotta know what it's gotta be a little cereal. You gotta open it up a little bit with the cereal, and then to use horse racing terms, the salami sandwich is like the 3/8 of a mile blowout the morning of the race. Like you're just like, all right, let me go give a little air in his lungs, make sure he's ready, and we with the rye bread from Giovanni, we put the salami right on top of the rye bread, and we're ready to roll.
You're the best, man. Enjoy the holiday, buddy.
Happy Thanksgiving, Big A.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
it's even better when you watch the tape and there's things that you wish you could do better. And yeah, we're excited. We're kind of just back at square one, kind of getting ready for the next team and kind of putting that behind us. So we'll be excited and ready to go for this game on Friday.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR, and Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by our friend Jessica Coody from Huskers Radio Network. Jess, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are we doing, fellas? You guys saved the best for last today.
We did. We got to send people into Thanksgiving with something to be thankful for.
Hey,
I love it.
before the pleasantries, I appreciate you, practice. You know we have to travel together, and I have to see Coach Raiola. I appreciate you reminding him that I said he didn't have a good poker face. You see how he almost was going to bristle up. I'm glad you kind of saved me by saying he wears his emotions on his sleeve. I was like, oh, my gosh, this guy's going to want to truly fight me tomorrow, and the plane is too small.
He was a little bit like, what the heck are you talking about?
He goes, why would Damon say that?
I've been waiting for the chance to ask him about it, and so I sprung it on him. But he was laughing about it afterwards. But at the time, yeah, he had no idea what I was talking about. I was like, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Are you?
Hey, in your defense, I asked Dominic about it too, and he agreed with you. He said, yeah, he has a horrible poker face. So he agreed with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, a brother's never going to say anything nice about his brother's poker face.
Do you ever watch him? You know exactly what Donnie's thinking by how he look. Are they the most fun group for you to kind of patrol on the sidelines?
Oh, it's hard to beat that D-line.
Is it? Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I just the defensive line, they just think, and Terrace Knight, you know this, they've been since last year from the start. I enjoy because they have so much fun, and they are Terrace Knight allows them to be them, and they are. I mean, they'll be serious when they need to be serious, and I love that they're kind of. Ty Robinson is one of the first guys to get on people to go up and down to the linebackers, the defensive backs. Hey, let's go. He's called them up a few times to defense. He'll be the first to call guys out, but they also enjoy themselves and have a good time. And so, especially when things are going good for that D-line, they like to enjoy themselves, and it's fun to watch.
Jess, I got it. Since we were talking about Donnie, I got to ask, there was that video that went around. I know you're on the sidelines. Did you get a sense of what the deal was at all after Wisconsin? That whole thing just seemed really strange.
I have no idea. I mean, I know that obviously Donnie played at Wisconsin, and so maybe there's some history there. But I think he's just a fiery guy.
Yep.
He's one of those defensive or those offensive linemen and defensive linemen. It's like they have this switch. The best ones have this switch. To where you are like they're one of the nicest people. Like I love talking to Donnie off camera, offline about he's got his family has a beehive farm thing. They have fresh honey in Hawaii, and he would tell me about that and just stuff outside of football. I mean, he is just a joy to talk to. But man, he is all business when he's on the field, and I think a lot of those linemen are, and D-line too. Ty Robinson is the epitome of that, and so I think he just has this switch to where he wanted that one bad. You heard him say it last night about I've been a fan of this program since my brother played here, and I wanted to beat Wisconsin, and that's his alma mater. So he wanted it really bad, and for his guys, and just for this program, and so I think it just meant a lot to him. And he's just when he's on that football field, he's a pretty fiery guy.
Are you surprised? I know our listeners won't be that you're the one that had to kind of talk me off the ledge when you said I was talking about women's basketball, and I said, man, that's one Nebraska's got to get. And you're basically like, listen, DB, that's the first game they played without Potts. Can you chill? And I was like, oh, good point. When you're watching those unfold, you kind of get that perspective being so close to that team, don't you?
Yeah, well, and it's I think Creighton's still going to win some games. I think that's
a good basketball
down the road.
team. Yeah,
it's not going to be a bad loss. It's on the road. it was close. It's not going to hurt Nebraska. I don't think it was what you call a bad loss. And, especially the first one without Potts, they had just lost, I believe it was on Tuesday. So that's a quick turnaround to figure out how to manage a team with someone that's such a big piece. And so, but I think what you saw, though, is you saw Britt Brents really emerge as being more aggressive, and she's going to have to do that now with the absence of Natalie Potts. So they're just going to have to figure out how to play with her. We've still got some really good pieces. Obviously, Alexis Markowski, one of the best posts in the country. She's way underrated, doesn't get enough credit outside of the state of Nebraska. And, Britt Brents is Britt Brents for a reason. And then you've got some other really talented. Hake has come on. So I think you've got some good pieces. It's just they've got to figure out how to do it with Potts. Potts is not only, she's a Big Ten Freshman of the Year last year, but it's also her mentality of just being, all she's done her entire life is win. And so she just has this killer mentality of, she believes, no doubt, no matter what, they're going to find a way to win. And that's not always the case with every single athlete. And so it's just her, that mentality too. I think they're going to miss even as much as her production on the court. But they just got to figure out, they've got some depth. They just got to figure out how to do it without her. And but that was the first one without her. And so I think that's why it made it a little bit more challenging. And plus, Creighton always does this. I feel like against Nebraska, everything they put up goes in, and it's hard to outscore threes when you're scoring twos.
Yeah, so that might be the unintended consequence too, because if there's been a little bit of a bugaboo for Coach Williams, it's been defending the arc. I'm kind of glad that this happened early in the season, because I think that may be an adjustment they have to make if they want to get to where they want to be.
Yeah, and I think losing one of the better defenders in the league in Jazz Shelley, she was really, really good at that. She would almost always be matching up against the opposing team's best player. And, even Darian White was a really good defender too. And so they have to find, their guards have to be, find a way to improve at guarding the perimeter. And I think it's, again, when you've got freshmen like Britt Brents, and Coach Williams told me this earlier, like a couple weeks into the season, that she has the potential to be an elite defender. It's just different when you start having to guard as a freshman on this level. It's just a different animal. And, a lot of these freshmen coming in, and we hear that on both men's and women's side. A lot of times these freshmen have not had to play defense their entire life. And now you have to all of a sudden, and it's a very crucial part of the game that you have to figure out how to do it. And so, I think it's a work in progress, but I think they've got, I think that Britt's going to be really special on both ends. I think it's, again, just figuring out how to defend at this level. And some of the other guards are going to have to really, manage doing that. But also, Creighton's just a weird matchup for Nebraska, because it's, they have a hard time guarding Alexis Markowski inside, but then, Nebraska's big have a hard time guarding the guards outside. So it's just kind of a weird matchup, I feel like, for both teams. And it's almost like which strength pulls out, and it turns out Creighton's strength of being really efficient from the perimeter on Friday night ended up not knocking off Nebraska on Friday.
Jessica, speaking about Nebraska trying to figure out how to defend on a Friday night, obviously Caleb Johnson's going to be a really challenging aspect of this game against Iowa. What do you think that looks like for a Nebraska team that maybe is going to be able to really load up against an Iowa team because of their quarterback situation, but Caleb Johnson and their running game have still been really, really good?
Yeah, and I think that this is a group that takes that on as a challenge and probably a nice welcome to not have to worry about some of those big shots on the outside like they've had against USC and some of those other teams. But I think with the weather too, I just actually Sierra Wright is my Cornhusker conversation this week, and I chatted with him.
Oh, I
yesterday.
bet that'll be a gem.
Oh, it's great. It's one of my favorite interviews I've done. We talked about his acting and all of that. But anyways, he talked about that, about everybody kind of doing their job and the importance of even the defensive backs might not be chasing down wide receivers like they did against USC and whatnot, but that they have to be sound in the run game, and that's what I was going to do. It's going to be cold, but this defensive front, I think they like that kind of challenge with Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmaker, those guys on the D line. I think they're ready for it. I think they, one thing that might be lost, and I felt it immediately after the game, was that, okay, they got this 6th win and they beat Wisconsin, they got the trophy, and all is well. And I immediately felt a switch of, no, we've got one more game we want to go win.
Yeah. And
so I think that this is a challenge that they're embracing. Of course, I mean, last time for Ty Robinson to play Iowa and Nash and some of those older guys, that I think this is a challenge they're really embracing, and I think they want to go out with a bang here, and I think stopping Iowa's run game would be a good way to do that.
So when you take a look at the kind of the mood for this team, do you like the short week, or do you wish they had another day of prep? What was your feel?
I don't think it. I mean, I think it's all right. I think at this point, I've heard it a couple different times now. It's less about preparing for Iowa and more about doing what Nebraska does. I think they've put together a couple different weeks and they've really built some momentum on the offensive side of the ball. And so it's less about, okay, what is Iowa going to do defensively? It's more, hey, how are we going to execute? And yeah, I kind of think that, hey, you got some momentum going. It is what it is. I mean, this is going to happen every single year. This program knows that you're going to play on Friday, and you're on prime time on NBC, and it's you've got a lot of momentum going into this. And so I think for the most part, I mean, you always probably not like the short week. It's also kind of crazy with the Thanksgiving and all of that, but it's what this program has dealt with every year. It's part of what they do is they play on Thanksgiving or the day after Thanksgiving, and so you manage it how you manage it. But I think it was a big turning point. I've heard that now multiple times from players. That was huge. The pressure that's been relieved. Just I think maybe a big turning point, what they were able to do against Wisconsin. And I think they've got a lot of confidence. I think, honestly, the sooner they can get out on the field, the better is kind of the sense I feel.
Nice.
That's Jessica Coody from the Husker Radio Network. Jessica, we appreciate it. As always, enjoy your trip and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Jess.
Happy Thanksgiving. See you on the flight, DB.
You got it.
Before we send you out into the weekend, I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Midland's Family Urgent Care. They have a lot more to offer than what you might think from an urgent care facility. I've been going there for a few months now to help me out with my weight loss. After a consultation, they were able to prescribe me semaglutide. It's the same active ingredient as Ozempic, which I'm sure you've heard plenty about. And now I'm down almost 30 pounds overall. Best part is I just don't think about food all the time anymore. You know me, I've been thinking about constant cravings and stuff all the time. It's just been a total game changer for me. If you need a little help losing some of that weight as well, make sure you make an appointment. MidlandsUrgentCare.com is where you do that. DB, have a great trip. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll meet back here on Monday.
Yeah, see you soon.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.